Okay, I will. Okay.
Good morning, Todd.
Good morning. So, the session is to start talking about facilities. I think Joanne's idea was to hear what your guys' thoughts are on each one. We kind of listed them on this paper here. So I don't know where you want to start or what your pleasure is. Basically, when I look at facility planning, there's the 1 year, what do we need to do now? There's the 5 year, what needs done very, very soon so that we can stage it based on dollar availability, et cetera. And then I call it the 10-year look, but is this facility adequate for the needs of that department as it grows or shrinks or whatever the case may be? And that's kind of the 10-year idea. Obviously, we're not going to get to every facility or all of that level, but as we talk, those are things, what do we think needs done right now? What do we think is going to need done soon? And then is this facility what we want moving forward as the county progresses? Those are some of the things I'd like to hear. We kind of grouped them by area. We have what we call the Infirmary Road Complex, and I do have the airport in that grouping. The Main Street, which I included Station 30 and the motor pool. Sometimes we consider those miscellaneous ones too, because they're kind of out to the side, but the Main Street complexes, the admin building, and then we have a few miscellaneous, including solid waste. Oh, I have in the Kent Courthouse, got a copy over pretty Glendale. I bet that's what happened because it's on there twice. And then I have vehicle replacements at the bottom. Vehicle replacements have always sort of been taught with the capital budget, which is the facilities portion. And so that's why it's on here. It's sort of always been its own separate piece outside of the normal operating budgeting process.
Do the vehicles, those are separate from the sheriff's department vehicles? These are
No,
just,
that's our whole fleet.
and that's the whole fleet?
Yeah.
Okay. How many vehicles do we have in the fleet?
100 roughly. It's a little bit. I think we have actually 106 or something right now.
Todd, let's start with the things that you're familiar with, because Joanne will cover the Justice Center
Mhm.
and all that. Let's start with the airport.
So again, since I've been here, which is 7 years, the airport, I don't want to say it's fallen into disarray, but it's gotten slightly worse each year, every year. And we've often talked about the commissioners needing to do something. We talked last week about the fact that the revenues, in part because of the lost hangar, are no longer sufficient even for the minimal work that they do. And that minimal amount is not conducive to what really should be happening. When I first came, we were actually on the FAA's naughty list, if you will, in terms of getting grants because we hadn't done some of the things. We didn't have a plan here and all that type of stuff. They've actually made good progress in that, but one of the things we're at risk of right now is we don't have a pavement maintenance program. And the FAA has indicated that it will be less and less likely to support grants in the future without that in place. If you go out there, the pavement, the runways aren't horrible. Of course, they're kept, as best of anything out there, but a lot of the pavement is alligators and everything else. And so getting in there, just doing basic crack sealing on an annual basis, those type of things just really doesn't get done. Of course, if you look at Manway Parkway,
When was the last time we really did our maintenance program? Do we have a maintenance program?
So-
Do we have one?
we don't do
We
one at the
don't.
airport because it's always been the board's responsibility, and that's been the issue, is they don't have the funds to really do it. Mickey is not allowed to spend his money, his tax money.
Who's Mickey?
The engineer. He does
Okay,
all the
Mr.
paving.
Moranci.
Yeah, Moranci, yeah. So he could include the airport in his ceiling programs and whatnot, but he has to have money provided to it, to do that work out there. And that's been an issue. The airport board, like I said, it hasn't had excess revenue, and then every year something comes up. The fuel tank breaks. We had a sewer pump break. There's always something that comes up in its place, and so maintenance always kind of gets kicked by the wayside. and so that's where we're at there. So we're back to possibly, and we're not, it's not like this year they're cutting us off, but we have the possibility of falling back into the FAA's poor graces by not having some of this stuff done. And going forward, and at a 90-10 match, it's a shame not to be able to leverage those funds.
When you say 90-10 match,
90% from the FAA on the eligible. Now, the FAA doesn't cover everything at the airport, but for example, the taxiways, the runways, those type of things they do. And when they chip in, it's 90% their funds, 10% match. And they allow for an awful lot of things to be included in the match, including in-kind work and all that.
really?
So it's good money, so to speak. It'd be a shame to lose it. Plus, they always offer, there's an annual allocation, then you can roll that for 3 years to do some other projects based on eligible expenses. So it's a nice source of capital funding in an airport.
So the airport board hasn't had any money. We haven't had anything to do with it. So that's our issue. They don't have money.
So
We don't have
yeah,
responsibility.
in the past, commissioners have been reluctant to provide a stipend, if you will, to the airport board, in part because of just general complaints over how things were handled, how it was run. They were afraid that the money provided wouldn't be used for what they envisioned it being used for. And so that's never happened. That is one solution, is that the commissioners from your general fund simply start providing supplemental funding. With that reluctance in place, the other conversation is whether the commissioners want to take the airport over directly. The advantage being you have a very talented staff, including Joanne for procurement and all these other type of things. Whereas right now it's volunteers doing the best they can with the information at hand. And sometimes they're caught off guards by rules that, Joanne just knows off the back of her head. So there is an advantage. Of course, the disadvantage is that it would be silly for you to take it over and not do anything there. You would look like fools, so to speak.
How long has the airport board had the airport and commissioners haven't had participants?
Since the mid to late 70s is when it was established, so.
That's not a long time.
Yeah.
And then I think, did you talk to Chris? He's coming to see us on Thursday. Is he going to give us an outline of?
Well, I'm not sure, because he also brought up the fuel tank issue, which to me is a minor issue. It's a hiccup in the road of what needs done, but I think he wanted to talk about that as well. So I'm not sure how far he is on the overall plan, if he would proceed to take it over. If you do begin committing county money to the airport, it looks to me like it's going to be a substantial upfront investment. Manway Parkway alone is $450,000 to put it in just drivable shape.
What do you mean Manway Parkway?
So Manway Parkway is the road that goes
Runs
into the airport.
parallel to it?
No, it runs in, it's the main entrance.
From I call it 43.
44, 88.
Or is it 44?
44. I said 40. That road is actually considered private. Mickey would argue it's the township trustees road. The trustees will argue it's the county's road. The county argues it's Mickey's road. In the meantime, nothing's ever been done.
Right. Seems like that's pretty good.
So the end result is that's something that needs some serious money put in. And that's one of the things that's like it's a lot of money just to get where you should have been.
Yep.
It's not like that's going to be a glowing contribution.
Let's
Simply
talk
where it should
about
be.
the potential. I mean, yeah, it would take a lot of money up front, but then the money up front would also help possibly build some hangars that we could start generating.
That would be the goal, is to get the airport back to a position where it becomes, if not cost neutral, at least very close to it.
When was the last time it was cost neutral?
It really, well, so in doing the things it should do, never. In doing the things that it did do, probably 6 years ago was the last real time. They've always skimped on maintenance, they've always skimped on, I mean, I don't know, when you go out there, I mean, the one hangar is, there's barns in better shape. You know, so it's clear things weren't done that probably should have been done all along. So from that standpoint, they probably have never really been cost neutral. They've just gotten by though. The last 6 years, though, is where they started hemorrhaging, to where I think for the last 4 years, they've had to come to the county for money in some form. And the amount they're coming for is growing each year, with last year being almost 70,000. And now this year, we're only to January, and they're already talking about the fact that they're $40,000 or $50,000 behind on their bills already.
Has that board put together like we're trying to do with the county, a list of, hey, this is the first thing should be done, these are the things that have to get done now?
They have, there was an airport plan done, I believe that was 8 or 9 years ago, actually maybe even 10 years old now, that outlines some of the ideas for what should be done, both if you keep it the current level and if you expand it. Again, there's no shortage of ideas of what needs done. It's the shortage of money that comes into play.
And they're limited on how much they can raise, because their biggest moneymaker was the renting of the hangars. But there again, they had a hangar that got destroyed and it wasn't insured for enough to replace it. So they just took that money and utilized it, you know, for repairs and stuff that they were behind on, and they're just never catching up.
Well, just to give you an idea.
They just keep getting further and further behind, and the maintenance is still not, which, you know, when you don't keep up with the capital improvements over time, that equates to more and more money.
And they had, I mean, they took the $80,000 insurance check from the hangar, and they took the $40,000 settlement from the Kelly fees issue, and that's been spent plus having to come, you know, and those were one-time sources. I mean, that's not like that was even revenue. So just to give you a concept of how far in the hole they are.
What'd they do that $120,000?
Just operated.
Operated on it.
Just operated.
And then they just recently received, I want to say, $30,000 from CARES funds.
Yeah, that was to help fix the lights.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like anytime they get any money, it's gone. And so there's not really a good opportunity for them to really dig themselves out because of the long-term leases that they've done.
Well, that's part of the issue. Again, I've said you basically have two choices. You need to move forward, which means putting money into it so that it can begin generating revenue, or you need to step away and say, look, you're already too luxurious as you are. You need to begin cutting back and become a very, very basic airport. You know, and that will very likely lead to the loss of the lifeblood and all those type of things, which the county would hate to see go. So again, life flight's a nice feather in our cap, so to speak, to have that working and operating. There's jobs being provided in terms of mechanics, et cetera, that if you should reduce the airport, you know, at some point you reach the point where they're just going to leave, and now you have even worse situation. On the other hand, if you wish to keep all that, keep it as an economic development opportunity, it needs investment. And we're talking $3 million in the first year is my estimate.
We've toured several other airports, including like Wayne County's airport, and we also had Congressman Joyce's Tom Queen come, who used to be the private pilot for Congressman Jim Renacci. And he said when him and Renacci were campaigning, they toured every county airport, and he said this is one of the best airports and it has the greatest potential, and it's mainly because of its location. And, you know, we're close to everything, Youngstown, Akron, Cleveland. And he said, you know, they would be willing to help us look for federal funds and the FAA and stuff to assist with. Now, everyone often talks about the expansion of the runway. And again, when Todd and I have met with the airport board and stuff, and Chris Gilmore, you know, one of the things they said is, you know, it has to be done in phases because of the amount of money. We have the land to do it, but there's also the issue because of Infirmary Road, and because the sheriff's department's out there. And stuff. But Todd, correct me if needed, didn't they figure out a way to do infirmary without?
Going
There's a
underneath,
couple
right?
solutions. The one is tunneling, which there was actually some pushback from security forces concerned that would the tunnel always service, like a large fire engine if needed, could it pass through? The alternative is to reroute it, and I'm not sure what roads are there to the west, but Mickey actually had an idea for kind of doglegging infirmary at both sections to go out further west and then reconnect on the roads over there. The alternative is we own all the land. I mean, we own land all the way from infirmary to 44. It's possible that we could create an emergency drive across our land that would service fire, police, and
Just-
sheriffs,
Mhm.
Yeah, emergency.
so that you wouldn't have this, blockage there going up into Streetsboro, but that would facilitate that need. So there's a lot of options. Again, nobody's really put too much time because this has never really been the focus. Even the congressman, et cetera, they're waiting to see the county's commitment. And I think the county needs to put an initial commitment in, and then people are gonna wake up, including the private sector, and say, hey, you know what? If this is real now, we wanna do this, we want a part. Historically, the county has asked for those people to put money in first, and then the county really hasn't followed through, and kind of burnt individuals over the years and burned bridges over the decades to where, again, everybody is kind of in the wait and see mode.
Everybody's shotgun shy.
Yeah.
But you know what, I have to say, since I've been a commissioner, it's really evolved though, because at one point in time, we didn't have a board of trustees also that really supported the airport. They were not in favor of it because of the complaints and stuff they got from the citizens. And as the boards have changed, we now have a board that actually supports the airport, and they want to see it, they understand how it is such an economic engine, or has the potential to be, especially as they look to develop that land along the turnpike that Geis is
Right,
looking
right.
at. That was the first thing they asked the trustees is, what's our availability or access to the airport?
Mhm.
And with us being major headquarters to a lot of businesses like Davy Tree and Amatech and stuff, there's a lot of potential there. And then as far as expanding the runway, again, we had talked that we wouldn't, build it and see if they come. We would start looking at trying to get contracts with companies. Is that not correct, Todd?
Well, and I think that's the talk that I've been pushing, is we need to do it in phases. And
Yes.
each phase has to be self-sustaining should we decide to stop there. But each phase will have a series of goals of what does it mean to call this phase successful
Mhm.
before we begin moving on. And then we can show both the community, the commissioners, and all the other stakeholders, no, here's the plan so far, and it's either come to fruition or not. That way, at any point, again, hopefully we could stop where we are and at least have something functional if we didn't continue on.
What size aircraft can we bring in now?
Right now, it's mostly props. There is a small jet that lands there, but basically because of the length of the runway, insurance will not cover that. So it's at your own risk. By extending the runway, you for sure would allow small jet craft to land, insured, et cetera, which is what a lot of the businesses are looking for in terms of being able to bring in clients and move themselves out quicker.
And Todd, can you give us example of what phase one would look like? If we were to take the airport
So-
back over, what would be our priorities in phase
Yeah.
one?
The
And-
first phase, I think, is getting the existing airport to be self-sustaining once again. And that is going to include concentrating revenue sources, potentially adding hangars if the demand is there. And one thing that we could do, I think the one hangar is a 9-unit. You could build a 15-unit to replace the dilapidated one. If it fills up quickly and there's a waiting list, you would know to go further. If not, you would know that that's where we stop. Just again, cleaning up the airport, providing some basic amenities and letting people know that there is a commitment there. so that they are more comfortable bringing in their own private aircraft or their corporate aircraft, would certainly go a long way towards determining the actual demand of that airport. You know, we hear a lot of anecdotes that people are tired of the waits at Akron, people are tired of the waits at Cleveland. They would love to come into a place like this and then be able to quickly drive to those same places and arrive at almost the same time. I mean, you're gonna spend an hour and a half in Cleveland.
Mhm.
You can land here in 10 minutes, be in your car and be up to Cleveland in half an hour. So where's the less frustration? So there's a lot of talk of things like that, but I think we need to begin improving the basic infrastructure and seeing if people, you know, really do have that pent up demand that everybody indicates could be there. And one of the ways to do that is expanding the facility. Go ahead, Vicki.
You know what I have? There's an echo.
You're breaking up as well.
Vicki, could you say a few things for a minute so we can figure it out?
That's awful.
We heard that.
I don't know.
Is she okay now?
Vicki, could you say a few more words besides awful?
See, same thing. What's going on?
Where's Claire?
We're gonna find Claire.
Oh, wow.
We're coming through Claire now.
Todd,
Yes,
can you hear me?
we can now, yes.
Oh, okay. Is the first step before doing all this, the county taking over the airport? Do we need to do that first?
That's what the commissioners are going to have to work with to decide. There's a lot of, not a lot, there's the thought of having a study done first so that the county doesn't walk in blindly. The disadvantage to that is it takes time. And depending on the answer that you get, it's going to be the consultant's view of how we should operate our county and not necessarily the commissioner's desire. On the other hand, we don't want to take it over and realize that we don't have the commitment that it needs. Because once the county takes it over, there are some basic maintenance issues that being a county facility, we simply can't put up with, like people in the hangars climbing up and repairing the roof themselves, those type of things. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. I don't believe it would hurt to have a consultant come out and give the commissioners an appraisal of what needs done. I'm not sure that we need the whole 10-year plan in place though, before we proceed any further, because that will take a year and a half to conduct in and of itself.
But you know, we've discussed before that if they fail, if they just cannot meet their bills, the county, it is our responsibility, correct?
It will fall to you one way or another, that's correct.
Yeah. So how long would this take for a consultant? Because we don't want to prolong this another year, 2 years. I mean,
Some of it you would need to be clear on what you want that consultant to provide you with. Again, whether it's just an overall view of, you know, what is the potential for that airport versus if you want them to actually come in and give you a dollar estimate on what it would really cost in terms of needed repairs right now. That might take a little bit longer. I know there's no shortage of people willing to do that. We've had at least 3 people contact us and offer us their services. So it's just a matter of what information the board feels it needs to proceed. And then I would say get that information and move from there. You know, one of the nightmares that's always been is when you get a group of people and everybody offering opinions, you become so flooded with possibilities that no action occurs. And we've been for a long time.
well, don't you think we should start there if that's something we have to do to get this moving?
I think so. I think we need to start now.
Mr. Bonner is sitting in the back there. From my understanding, he's been involved with this airport for a little bit.
For 20 years, I can, if you give me the floor for a couple minutes, I'll.
Jan, would you share? Mr. Bonner, I'd love to hear you roll your eyes like I do.
Well, the reason I'm rolling my eyes is because I've
No,
been here before.
I know you have.
And-
Go ahead, please have a seat.
All right, thanks. Yeah,
Shannon,
I'm sorry.
no problem.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi.
So I'd like to start with the history of the last time there was two, I believe I'm right in saying two Republican commissioners, which were Chris Miles and,
This mile's number.
Kuiper.
Democrat. They're Democrats.
No, wait a minute.
Transferred Esposito, I think.
No, well, anyway, so I think this is 10 years ago. Am I wrong about this? When Kuiper and Miles.
About 20 years.
20-some years.
It's 20 years. Yeah, I talked to Chuck
Oh, Chuck
Kuiper
and
recently.
Kuiper.
Kuiper, that's been about 15 years.
Well,
Anyway, go ahead.
the part of the problem in Toddville, you know, it's the 10%, okay, to get back to the FAA, and Maureen always got, back when Chepowitz and who's the doctor from Kent, that was president of the board, the gray-haired doctor, who's got an office over in Kent. I can't think of his name. Pretty competent people, both of them were, and I think they did a relatively good job with the airport. There was a lot of activity there then. But long story short, Kuiper and Smiles committed to me when I got involved at the airport, which was buying out part of Kelly and part of Hoyle, Mike Hoyle, who had the original 50-year lease on the FBO, was they committed to me that they were going to get this runway done, expansion. All the plans were drawn to reroute that thing, and it was.
That was done 20 years ago?
Well, I don't think it was 20. I'm thinking it was.
I want to say it was the late 80s, early 90s though.
That's
Well,
30.
somebody could check,
Yeah,
because the day that Smiles left office here in your chairs, they voted to give the airport the land. Because to me, this thing has always been, it's in one pocket of the commissioners and one pocket is the airport board, but it's all the same.
Mhm.
It's county land. So, but they had to give the land to the county to use, or to the board to use for a like-kind exchange, because the FAA would allow them to use this as match money, correct, Tom? So I was told that the deed got done and it got deep six in the safe. And once Smiles left office, the woman came in here, I can't think of her name. She was an attorney from Garrettsville.
Tommy
And
Joe Mercer.
Tommy Joe. And everything stopped. The thing never came out of the safe. I'm not sure it ever got filed, but it never got done. Once they left office, political will in this county, being the you know, it didn't happen. And it's because somebody was flying over Hideaway Lake or something. You know, the whole thing got, for whatever reason behind the scenes, this is my opinion, it all got stopped.
So you're saying that if the county were to give that extra land for the runway to it, that would act in kind as the 10%?
No,
that
it wasn't even the runway land. It was the land that behind the dog pound, they were gonna give it. See, Kuiper didn't want to give the land to them because this is back when the other 80,000, I think that the board got, Todd, you can correct me, but they got, when the big lease thing was going on years ago with all the oil leases, they got another 80,000 for oil leases on that. The airport board did.
Yeah.
So that was some more money that didn't get mentioned in the deal. But long story short, politically, there hasn't been the will to do anything. So these people get on the board and they don't even have a mission statement. They have, it's screwed up is what it is. They're, you know, one hand's tied behind their back, and I think the commissioners think if we just shove it off on the board, we can blame them or it's their responsibility. And it doesn't get done. But the will's not here in this courthouse to make something happen. Maybe it is now. It hasn't been in the past. You know, but you know, I always said that if the county would give them $1 million, they could bring $10 million of our tax money back to the community. And
Didn't
the
start with the
studies,
match funds.
yeah, the match fund. The studies have all been done. I mean, there's a ton of information about economic development of the airport. All that stuff came here. We had 40 people that would bring jets into that airport 20 years ago. I did the work myself to give them a list of people for the FAA. That was back when Yeager was the engineer, I believe. But it never got done because there was never the political will to do it.
Todd, did we not get a copy of a study of the airport? I think I got it from AMATS or
Yeah,
maybe
that's what I'm saying,
Senator
that's like 10
Eklund's.
or, I want to say it's at least 10 years old, but that's the most current version of the plan.
Yeah.
There's never been a lack of, again, ideas, talking, et cetera. It's just, it's never
Nothing
actually
ever-
begun moving
It just
forward.
keeps kicking the can down
And
the road.
partly because, again, the county's gonna have to cough up the money to do a lot of it. You know, the FAA is a 90-10 match on what they cover, but they don't cover the entirety of the airport.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
certain
there are
things.
aspects that the county's gonna have to commit the funds to, and as Mr. Bonner said, there's really never been the will to commit that money. My feel's always been because the commissioners never wanted to turn it over to the board because they didn't trust that it would occur in the way that they hoped, partly because they have spent other money on other things. Again, there's a long history of problems, but the question is, how do we move forward?
Well, a couple ideas that I have, you know, and I told Gene Riffle is the guy that put all the airport code of regulations and all that stuff together years and years ago. But, you know, and I've told this many times to him, but, you know, Geis, for example, keeps his plane at the airport. There's 2 or 3 other turboprops there, and sometimes jets do land, but Todd's absolutely right about the insurance issue. It needs to be extended, which is what the commissioners committed that they.
How much more do they have? How many feet?
I think eventually you need to get
It's 3,500, and you need to be at 5,000.
So
4,500.
I think we're at 3,800.
about a mile or half a mile?
Yeah. But anyway, one of the problems is I think when Gene Merkel put this, the airport, all the regulations together, I think he went down to African Canton and ran a copy machine and gave it back to the board, and they adopted all this stuff, but it's kind of unreasonable, some of the things. The fuel flow fees are astronomical up there, and, you know, and Gilmore and I work pretty well together to straighten out some of these things on the leases. But one of the other things is they've got land lease things in place at the airport that are completely unrealistic. In my opinion, the county should give somebody the land. Give them a piece of land, let them build a hangar, take the hangar back in 30 years, and you own it then. And then if that would have been done 20 years ago, you've been on the downhill side today. And since then, the only person that's built anything at that airport is Dick Bonner in the last 20 years. Check it out.
So we get it in 10?
No, I built some of my hangars on private land, but I put one on county land,
You
which I'm
have
gonna
one
have to give back to you folks.
So you're saying that if there's land out there that people can build hangars on, we give them the land so they can do that. 30 years later, we get the land.
Well,
And
whatever you determine. the
whatever-
lease to be,
whatever- but that's
it
what you're
brings
saying.
activity and economic development to the airport, because the problem now is there's no traffic, and FBO has trouble surviving because, you know, let's face it, you know, this was one of Maureen Frederick's big problems. A lot of the guys on the north side, there's over 100 aircraft there, which is probably more than any of the surrounding counties, I'm sure it is, than Jaga, but it was a rich boy's toy thing. But from my perspective, I flown all over the country in small airplanes, and it's like Todd just said a while ago. You land at Portage and you got an appointment somewhere, you're in and out, and you go to Cleveland, you land your plane at Cleveland, it's $250.
Every
Set the
time we
wheels
go
down.
down.
You know, I can't afford that. So,
And I've always said, I felt that the airport has been a diamond in the rough. I mean, it's a great asset. I think the value, what's the value that they have that valued at? 3 million?
Oh, it's above that. I can't remember the last estimate.
And they have like $150,000 budget
Yeah.
to run over, well, it used to be 3 million, so the value has increased. And you just can't maintain a facility in operation. And then the other thing is like I said, we're to the point where they can no longer pay their bills, and it's gonna fall back to us. So,
isn't there a big payback to the FAA if it's not kept up to standards, Todd?
That's correct, yeah.
So, Mr. Brown, you said if I want to give this land away here, is how many people, how many people would want to build a hangar out there?
Well, I think Geis, for example, would build a hangar for one, but I mean, I had the list from, 20 years ago.
So there's people that are totally interested
Absolutely.
in this airport. It can make it viable if we invest some money and in 5 years, we'll see returns?
But you gotta have somebody that knows what they're doing to run the place.
That's
And
the other
right
thing.
now,
We need an
I mean,
airport
this tank
operating
example is a
manager.
typical example. It's almost 2 years now since we had this problem. And it's still not done because the bills aren't paid.
Who do you think, what kind of person do you have to hire to begin to run a facility?
Well, I think some of the things that Todd just mentioned on the ability for somebody to go out and get grants and bring federal monies back and set up a maintenance program and just.
You sound like a team versus a person.
Well, I think probably in many cases, you'll have people in place at the county to do this. That can be added maybe to their job description.
Mhm.
But right now, it's falling on, like Sabrina said, volunteers and people that,
And
I don't know
people
what
that
kind of
don't-
resume
Don't
it
have
takes
any
to get
idea.
appointed to the airport board, but I don't think it's much, and I don't think the list is that long.
Well, and in all fairness, though, they have done the best they can. Like I said, you can't have a over $3 million asset and operate it on a little over 100,000 a year. And is it 100,000 or 150 or is it 300? I get my boards mixed
No,
up.
they're just over 100.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
To operate the whole thing?
The
To make all the
entire
repairs
thing,
and everything?
Maintenance,
For,
everything.
yeah,
And they're strapped because there's leases though that are 50 to 100 years old. You know, they don't handle the fuel farm. So they get very small amount of money off the fuel farm. They outsource that. They didn't keep the insurance insured enough on the hangars. So when the one went down, I mean, we got a one-time sum, but that's it. We lost that revenue. And so it's just, you know, it's just sad because we have a great asset out there. And I've had people ask me, you know, they would love to come to that airport because it's so much accessible
Mhm.
and you can get in and out. I've had people, you know, that have great ideas that, you know, we could get like a Hertz or a car rental place out
Right.
there, put a restaurant, Mr. Bonner put, what is it, K-pop? It was like a bagel place or something that you have in your FBO. But I mean, there's a lot of great plans, but we just got to bring them to fruition. And the first step is we've got to assess it and see what maintenance has to be done because it's not been done. It's been neglected. And neglected not because of negligent, but because they just don't have the money to do it. And it's a liability because we do have the guys out there that are going on the roofs and patching them and stuff that, you know, someone fell or something. I mean, it's just not a good situation for us
I
to
don't
be
know,
in.
I'm not aware of that.
we've heard stories.
Oh, yeah.
You mean
It-
the hangers that you guys, you
That we
folks own in the back?
That
The
we
ones that are
own.
Leaning over.
So,
That was a bad decision by the board to buy that, because they were falling down.
Yeah.
I mean, those hangars are literally, they're 60 years old. Pole barns is what they are, no concrete floors.
I just think that they've done the best that they can, and now it's gonna come back to us irregardless, because they're to the point now that they cannot maintain the build. And Todd, that figure they gave us the other day, did that include taxes that are due in February or
no,
not?
they were holding out money for that as well. So that was just their current backlog. Like I said, they're gonna come to you more and more each year. The question is, for sake of discussions in our other facilities, what do you want to do to proceed? We do have Chris coming in, I believe, next week, and he was asked to provide at least some type of an outline of what this board needs to do, what that board needs to do, and how it all falls together. Do you want Joanne to begin getting an appraisal?
Appraisal on what?
Well, so there's several aspects. You have a fixed base operator, you have the airport land itself, and then you have, again, going into the future, there's the potential for what you would do with the runway. That's up to the board as to what level of information do you want to make the decisions now. That's what we're trying to gather so we can move forward instead of constantly talking.
Yeah,
You know, again, I don't think anybody's ever opposed that the airport needs something. It's just, we need to start moving forward. So what's the next step to get us moving? What does the board need to begin making deliberations on this?
I think Chris is actually supposed to talk about it Thursday, I thought.
This week? Okay.
Yeah, this weekend. Can you double check with him? Because
Yeah, I'll
I think
double
I
check on
requested
that.
that, and I think I asked you to, because,
And then do we want to get his information and then go from there?
yes.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing? I think you know this, Sabrina, but for Tony, I believe both Lorraine County and Ashtabula County have done this. They now, the commissioners are in control. They've taken the airports back and they put their own management people.
And we talked to them.
And
Yes.
and if you go see either one of those airports, there's a lot of activity there. They're very nice. I think they're both 5,000-foot facilities. And it's just a thought that the two other counties have managed to do this. Maybe we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner.
Okay, so we'll wait to hear from Chris and then we'll start moving forward with trying to discuss how we want to go about this. If it's to do a study, do we know approximately how much the study would be, or?
You can't say study without spending 20,000. Again, that's gonna be up to the board as to how much information they feel they need from outside sources. Again, one thing we don't lack for is knowledge about the airport. It's just been the willpower about it. So how much you want an independent review of that information versus how much you're comfortable with the people. I mean, we've talked to Chris Gilmore, we've talked to Mr. Bonner, we've talked to a lot of other people.
I think another study, I would go with Mr. Bonner and roll my eyes. We've got a tremendous amount of information from the sounds of it, to be able to move forward to make the airport viable. And then the next is how do we grow it?
And you know, Todd, the study that was done by the state on all the airports, the thing that stuck out in my mind the most when I reviewed that about our airport is it is not being used to its potential, meaning they see the value in it. But that's all they commented numerous times throughout that study, is that airport is not being used to its potential. So I know I talked to Dale Kelly as well, and he's willing, you know, him and Mr. Bonner at one point in time jointly had, I think, the FBO. Is that correct, Mr. Bonner? He is willing to come in and help us, advise us on, you know, what they experienced, what Mr. Bonner experienced, since they've been involved with the airport as well. And then I think if we talk to like Lorraine and Ashtabula, I think we would be able to get a pretty good idea.
Well, Wayne County is county owned as well.
Yeah, and I went and toured Wayne counties.
Wayne?
Yeah, the two he mentioned have recently taken them over, but there's a lot of other county owned airports.
But like Wayne County, that's like out in a cornfield. It's out. So, I mean, it's a nice airport, but when I think about what Tom Queen said to me last summer when he came and toured our airport, he said, you know, I've been to every county airport in the state of Ohio with Congressman Renacci, and he said, I'm going to tell you, this is one of the nicest airports that we landed to. It's accessible to all the major highways, to all the major areas, and you can get in and out of here. There's not traffic problems. And so I think it's time that we
Fix it.
fix it. Is that any point? Okay, all right. So we'll talk to Mr. Maduri on Thursday, and Todd, you'll follow up with him, make sure that he's prepared for that. I know I talked to him, just as a reminder.
Dick, would you be willing to every once in a while come to these Tuesday meetings? Kind of give us your thought as we work through this?
And I think it would be good to have like Chris Gilmore, Mr. Bonner. I know Mr. Kelly has also volunteered to come in and speak to us.
It's like we've got some good consultants as is.
We do. One of the things I've always cautioned is the county needs to be careful of its interests as you get all the outside advice. You need your interests as well. The airport is not where it is because stupid people were involved. The airport's where it is because a lot of very intelligent and well thought people made plans, but the plans fell through here and there, and that's where we're at. And so we need to make sure.
Nothing else, you know, they have the history on some of the stuff that might help us understand where we went wrong, how we can move it forward, and put us in the best position to help the airport and make it a success.
One of the things I'll say is the build it and they will come is not the model we need.
No.
But it does work. It does work. I'll go with that, but it does work.
Okay, so do we want to start with the Infirmary Road facilities?
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. Appreciate it.
So thanks for allowing me to speak. And I'll maybe see you Thursday, is that?
I'll talk to
I'll
you.
talk. Okay. Thanks, folks.
Bye.
See you, Todd.
We'll see you.
Okay, so Joanne, Infirmary Road Facilities, Justice Center. Are we completely finished with our renovations in the new pod?
It is built. It is occupied, but there are things that they are still tweaking.
Okay. They still have like a punch list
Correct.
that they're still working on? As far as the budget goes for that project, where did we end up at?
Under, but I can't tell you exactly the.
The amount, but it was not over. Okay.
We have not-
I just wanted to put that out because,
Yeah.
okay.
Are we talking of the Infirmary Road?
We're talking about the jail.
Jail, okay.
We're talking about the jail.
Jail,
When we
okay.
say Justice Center, that's the
Gotcha.
jail.
Jail.
And I just wanted to clarify that because there was some misunderstanding out there that we went way over that project, which was not the case. So, okay. So there's still a punch list. They're still working on some stuff. Okay. Dog warden. Is there anything, Joanne, that you know on the dog warden?
I didn't know what you guys wanted to actually talk about today.
Well, we were,
So-
Todd said that he gave us a list of facilities and he thought that you wanted us just to go through and go over each facility to see, what the need was so we can try to prioritize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean, I know like Dave's always wanted the dog run. But
Add on.
it's kind of a luxury item, if you will. We did receive the donation from the gentleman who passed last year.
Mhm.
That may be a nice use of those funds.
Yeah.
He does need a roof on the facility. He's mentioned that. What else he needs, though, I don't know. And then I know he takes his dogs for a walk back behind and there's a stream
Yeah,
that they jump and
Yeah.
it would be nice to have a culvert placed in there so that it would be.
you showed me that.
And that, they actually have the culvert, that's my understanding. It's just he needs a contractor to actually come and install the
To
property.
actually.
Sounds like it's gonna be like between $5,000 and $10,000 you get.
That's if Mickey is okay. The first thing we have to do anytime you interfere with the flow of water, you have to have Mickey come out.
Mhm.
Because whether you think it's adequate or not, it has to meet the 100-year flow.
Where it's soil and water.
Which, so that's the question, whether that one's the right size or whether more work
Not
would be
that-
done.
On the dog warden, wasn't there, I thought there was like a bridge or something, and I thought that Water Resources helped something out there.
That's this culvert that we're talking
That's the
about.
culvert, okay.
And they, like I said, there is my understanding is, I haven't been out there, but my understanding is they have a pipe that they'd like to use. The question is whether that's adequate. As a county facility, we can't just go in like somebody in their backyard and just do it. Again, we gotta go through the proper reviews, and one of those steps, because it is a live stream, is having Mickey determine whether or not.
And that area keeps getting flooded, so they
Mhm.
can't go back there.
Oh, that's why I
Yeah.
was surprised it's still on here, because I thought I remembered Water Resources
Yeah,
was
they
going
did
out
not
there
install it.
and helping with, assist with that. Record Center, Joanne, anything on that facility?
Well-
Or Shannon?
Roof. And there,
Okay.
basically needs to be redone. The whole building, because of the building inspector that went out there when we were asked about the occupancy permit, feels like the whole building has to shift as to usage. It's going to cost us a lot of money to get brought up to that kind of standard.
Used for what?
Record storage.
For record storage?
Correct.
So it costs a lot of money to put that building up to.
To make it for that service.
Okay.
When it was built for a nursing home, that's the kind of, I don't know what you call it, the credentials it's still under. And when the state, how was it, the fire marshal, the local guy wanted an occupancy permit, and to get that, you have to go through the building department. So when we went through the building department, the gentleman that came out said, you have to have fire prevention, sprinkler systems redone, the whole 9 yards, which Because if the paper goes up, they all go up.
Yeah,
Which I think we
And it's
know,
not-
you know, I mean, that wasn't unrealistic to know,
Mhm.
but it will cost a good penny to convert that over to that. And in fact, we want to spend money into fixing that building up. And that's where you guys have to say, are we keeping that building for Record Center? Are we going to consider taking our records and storing them off-site somewhere and getting rid of that building? Because I doesn't want to have any buildings anymore, I get it. They're problem buildings, you know.
Didn't we have someone that was interested in buying that building a while back?
We did, that interest, I'm not sure that
Fell
it's
to the
totally gone, but
wayside.
it has cooled since.
Okay,
But there actually have been other people who've come forward. Now, a lot of those people are coming forward without ever having been in the building.
well,
But
there's also been talks that if we ever go to expand the airport, there may be interest for people to acquire that property along there. I don't know.
it does, the current plot does extend well beyond the record center in terms of vacant land,
Yeah.
which if you, as the airport builds, that becomes the next parcel,
Yeah,
you know.
So it just depends. I mean, if you don't want that as record storage, then the first thing we have to do is find a place for records to be.
well, I have a
Because
question.
we can't totally not have some records.
Yeah,
I agree, well, I would say, I would say that there's a lot of records out there that could be disposed of if the elected official who's in charge of them wants to get rid of them. But Glenn has a hard time, a lot of times, trying to get people to do that.
wonder what other counties do that do not have a huge site like what we have.
Well, everybody has to
store.
have something. I mean, court records have to be kept. Now, there's an
Yeah.
option for microfilming, which, you know, the more you microfilm, the less paper you have, and you just have to keep the microfilm real.
Supposedly,
But, yeah.
that's supposed to be how it works, not necessarily.
Yeah, I had a chance to go through there with Shannon and maintenance guys. All the records that they showed me that really don't need to be, you can't get the elected official to say, destroy them.
Well, I'll be honest, you guys have a whole room of records that I don't think should have even gone out there to begin with, let alone stay there. I mean, we went through some boxes. There's printed email after printed email, which is not a record that needs kept in paper form. So it's nice to say the other elected officials, but you guys yourselves have trouble.
I could have a weenie roast after.
You know, but that, I mean, it is, and that needs to become, if we're gonna keep that facility, that needs to become part of the process of how do you get those officials out there on a regular basis to sort that information? That all needs started to be talked about. We kind of made the record center, we kind of put the records out there and then trusted Joanne and Glenn to handle it, and in dealing with some of the elected officials,
And they
it
just get
becomes
ignored.
difficult. You know.
And John, I know you had made mention about the annex building, possibly utilizing the annex building for storage.
Well, so my first and foremost, in my opinion, on the record center is you need to get out there and figure out what you have. You
Yeah.
need to figure out how much of those records actually need to be kept in paper, how much we can spend to get it microfilmed so that we reduce the paper load, and how much is just garbage that we just need to get rid of. And once that process is done, and that's a lengthy process right there, we can figure out what our normal load is going to be. My thought is that if we can have Iron Mountain keep some of the paper that we don't access on a regular basis, but that we have to keep, let's put it there. The records that we do access regularly, for example, court cases that go back, is it 5, is it 10 years that we have to constantly get into, let's keep those close to us. So we're not constantly calling Iron Mountain for those.
Where's
records.
Iron Mountain?
Pennsylvania.
I was gonna say Pennsylvania, I wasn't sure if it fits West Virginia there.
But a lot of the jobs and family services like ours
They
use them.
utilize that.
They come, they use them for shredding and storage.
But first, we need to know what our record load is on an annual basis, how much rotates in, how much should be rotating out that isn't. And then we can make a better decision on, is this all something then that we should keep here, and is that the building that is best suited for it? Or do we have a smaller load than we think that is rotated in and out on a regular basis, in which case can that be better handled somewhere? You know, one of the issues with Glenn is he's out by himself, and to get him
Right,
help
yeah.
Whereas if he was closer at a facility, now is that the best use of the annex? I don't honestly know. But those are some ideas now that you've got a vacant building sitting there.
But what he's got out there now would fill up that building pretty quickly.
Well, the annex building is
And then
not
some.
suited for.
Yeah.
The
No sprinkler
microfilming, the
systems?
microfilming department was in the basement with records and the filming for a long time when the
Yeah.
prosecutor was here.
Mhm.
And but really, when you're getting, when you're moving storage of boxes, and unfortunately, the way these things go, you need a one-story building, not building with steps, because it's not that, I don't know how much longer Glenn's gonna be able to tote the boxes up and down the steps.
He said that to me a couple weeks ago.
We don't ask Ramona to try to do that, and it's bad enough that they'll go up and try to bring them down to look the cases up. It's a workers' compensation hell,
Nightmare.
it is. So, as far as the annex building goes, I think that, for what needs to be put into that to make it habitable for people, let alone records, I think you'd be spending more than you probably need to. I don't think we have anybody standing at our doors banging them down wanting to rent from us, those kind of buildings, and it would be my opinion, knock the building, knock it down and make more parking. But I also get concerned with the fact that Kelly Jo had a full slate of people over there. They were packed in there like sardines.
Yeah.
And she brought all of them over here, but right about the same time as the pandemic
Okay.
thing. And I worry that if everybody was all to come back, do we have enough areas within the building that she can bring all those people back? I don't know the answer to that question. She's,
So what would we do?
well, that's what I said. That's why I hesitate to say knock it down, because what happens if we'd have to move them back over there? Or who are you gonna displace here to try to make more room for her?
Yeah, that wasn't.
But that's an answer that she should be able to provide to you if you ask.
And I think she's coming
You know,
in
where is your
next.
staff?
She's got like, I think this Thursday.
Is it this Thursday or Joy?
Kelly Jo?
Jo's coming
No,
in?
she's coming the 18th, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we need
That
to.
would be something that
Ask
we need to
her.
ask her.
But she's got about a 200 staff.
Mhm.
They have the whole second floor, and they have the majority of the third floor, except for where veterans and taxmen are. That's it.
When I spoke to her, she was talking because Ohio and federal mandates that they may be able to be working at home on a permanent basis, the way this all worked.
And it would reduce her rent.
Footprint, yeah.
Oh, plus she's got the fourth floor of the real one.
Well, and she's got the Ohio Means Job Center. I mean, she's got them spread out.
So let's go back to the knocking building down thing. The building in the parking lot seems like it's good bones. I was in there the other day. I mean,
Aside from having to have the air conditioning, all that replaced, the heating replaced.
It has to be rerun too. It's not like they can just get a new unit
mhm.
and do all the ductwork and so on.
So, and that's costly.
That's
That's
hundreds
what
of
I'm saying.
thousands,
I mean, unless you know that you've got somebody to put in there, I don't see putting the money into it. That's just me.
But what about the basement? Doesn't the basement?
The basement needs, yeah. That's
Yeah,
why we
one whole
moved,
size.
that's why we moved the record center out of there, when we had the ability to, because
Were we not able to repair the basement so that it would not leak anymore, or?
I don't know what the continual problem was with making, your guys would probably know better why.
It's something from the outside you have to dig. They believe, they're gonna. I mean,
we were talking about Ohio State Waterproofing, come in and find out where the leak is, because there's a pipe on our side of the building that's where the water comes from. It's very corroded, and that's what we were talking about a couple weeks ago.
And our annex building is still on the chopping block. And if we tore the annex building down,
Well, this is part of where, and not to interrupt, but this is
Yeah.
part of where you need to get a plan,
yeah, an overall
so that you
plan.
know you don't need that space, so that you can tear it down, which will give you space to do in the future what you may want. I mean, that's, the
Mhm.
last thing you want to do is tear that down and realize you need a space.
Well,
or,
that's
You
it.
know,
And we're out of spaces for employee handicap parking. They're all consumed right now with job and family services people.
Oh,
So nobody else has an opportunity in case something would happen. That's one of the reasons why I thought, well, if we have to extend the parking lot that way some, we can.
So,
But you know, the annex, you knew JFS was leaving in January of 2020. And here we are in February 2021, still without any idea of a plan of how to move forward on it. I mean, we need to start ticking these off and either saying we are gonna do this or we aren't gonna do this, because tearing it down is money, remodeling is money. Whichever way we go, but to have the building just sit there for another year is pointless, I guess, in my mind.
You know, Todd, getting back to the record center though, when you make a plan on, okay, we need this, we need to keep this many records, and we talked before about rotational, like when new records come in, then we can get rid of. But however, we need the permission of the elected official. We never could get over that.
That's correct.
I mean, we need to work together, and I'm not sure how to pull that together because we have no authority over them.
You don't.
And not that I want any.
The records, part of the agreement can be, if we're going to take them to the storage facility, you need to indicate the date that they should be destroyed and already have that permissions in place. I mean, there's ways to work around it. Every county has these issues.
Okay.
We just need to know that that's what we want
well, it
done.
sounds like.
And we need to start moving on it. And again-
Have the elected officials. I mean, really, we don't know. I mean, we've got some new elected officials. Are there certain ones, Joanne, that are still there that don't want to destroy stuff, or
Well,
maybe?
I know the clerk of courts has years of records there.
Yeah.
And that was the desire to keep them. So if Todd's saying that the easiest thing to do is just say, you've got, get them out of there, or, whatever. I still don't know where the lines run there. You can say no, if she can say to you no, I don't, but you can give me the funds and I'll move them to Iron Mountain, and
Well,
that's
that's
what
the,
it costs.
if there's a box
Iron
we haven't
Mountain
been in
isn't,
10
isn't
years,
free.
then let's ship it out. If they
Yeah.
want to keep it, they can keep it, but let's not house a facility here that we heat and roof and everything to do it. That's my thought is,
Good thought, might not be practical, but good thought.
if we knew the volume, we
Yeah.
could then make the decision on practicality one way or the other.
Joanne, would you guys have an idea as to, what records?
Oh, I'm sure Glenn has a
Glenn
record
has.
of what's out there.
It is amazing how he's got that place organized.
Oh, no, I've been
Yeah.
there, yeah.
You know, we commented before, the commissioners having your stuff brought here into all this empty space so you can start sorting through it. We talked about that last year.
Now, what was that? I'm sorry.
The commissioner's records, we've talked about having it brought here to this facility where, I mean, you've got 4 empty offices and having your staff start going through it just so we get an idea of how much of your stuff. I mean, you have a room this size full of stuff.
Do we know how long we have to keep this up?
We do,
Yeah,
we have
we have
every
records retention.
elected official has their record retention schedule.
What's ours?
It depends on the document. For example, an
Depends on what
invoice
they
needs
are.
kept
They
3
all have
years.
years,
you know.
Which makes it bad too.
And it
Yeah.
makes it bad when you have
Yeah.
like 12 different types of things in one box.
And that's why as items are packaged, people need to be given some guidance on how you package it so that when you write on a box that it can be destroyed in 2025, it's not, well, these 2 folders.
Yeah, don't commingle.
Yeah, it needs to
I'm
be-
gonna say,
Yeah.
So that somebody can easily do it, you
and I'm
know?
gonna say that the majority of the departments do it that way.
Yeah,
I know that when the commissioners packed up theirs, they took the shelves of ABC, put it in the box,
yeah.
and didn't pull out what they were doing, and that's why all those boxes would have to be gone through.
I like the auditor's
Things
office is one
out
that's
that
pretty
couldn't
well
be gone.
organized.
I'm sorry?
The auditor's office is pretty well organized out
Yeah,
there,
and that's why I
And
said
they
clerk
regularly
of
come
courts,
and
all
pull
the
the stuff
records,
out.
because
you know?
those guys have to be able to go pull those records, the prosecutor too. I mean, they can go and pull whatever year box they need to. So that's not the problem necessarily.
So how should we go about trying to conquer this then, to see exactly how much true space we do need versus if it's something that's indefinitely that we maybe consider?
Well, I'll start with getting the report from Glenn on
Okay.
exactly what records are out there for the clerk of courts and this and this, and then that's where you're gonna have to start. And then, Because, you know, he doesn't take the record retention schedules and say, you're supposed to get rid of all these and make the arrangements to get rid of them. That has to come from the elected official to say. So once we get that list, then I guess maybe we have to give the list to the elected official, because I don't know if they know even.
They probably don't.
Because eventually we'll run out of room out there. I
Absolutely.
mean.
It's coming quick.
It's coming quick,
It's
yeah.
coming quick.
Yeah, so we need to start taking a look at this probably sooner than later. Like you said, Joanne, probably a good place to start is getting that report from Glenn so we can start contacting the elected officials to come out there. See, otherwise, if they're, like some of the court records, they're not allowed to destroy, maybe those are the ones that we look at Iron Mountain. And speaking of Iron Mountain, I know it's an issue. What are we doing for shredding in our building? And I think, Joanne, we were gonna task you with that.
There are people who already have agreements set up for their shredding. I don't quite understand what the treasurer's office has that they shred on a, you know, I mean, we do a shredding once a year. Most everybody does. Job and Family, because of the amount of their records, I think they do it a little bit more frequently. So not quite sure what the issue is with Dennis just boxing them and taking them out to solid waste or whatever at the time.
Vicki,
To try
do
to
you
get
know?
one.
Well, Vicki might know. Vicki, do you know what the treasurer's office shreds?
Well, I know when I was there, they had a shredder and we did shred a lot of things. I didn't, but they did. But I think Brad feels that that's a waste of their time. I mean, to send his deputy director out to the shredding place. And I think, you know, we have a lot of shredding, Joanne, and I know our shredder's broken.
Oh, I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know that.
It's fixed.
Ours, like commissioners,
Oh, it's fixed, she said.
Yes.
it's fixed.
Yeah, Vince
Oh,
fixed it.
oh, it is?
Yeah, it's been fixed, Joy said.
Well,
Okay.
so the shredder, that goes, that's, and it goes in the dumpster. I mean, it's not like, for example, in our department, we'll take the next year's worth of records that we can take off our list, and there's probably 25 boxes. We call the shred guy in and takes it, so.
And they shred.
And isn't Bill's shredder just about kaput? I mean,
He has stopped, yeah, it's,
Bill doesn't do it like normal.
No.
Bill.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
what's-
And that's why I thought we would ask you to start checking into it, because we know Bill's no
No, you
longer.
did not ask me, but that, I
You
saw
didn't.
that email coming back and forth from Brad.
Yeah, okay. So maybe can we task Joanne to see about getting shredding for the building? Because it's not just our department, it's everyone, probably the Board of Elections. I don't know how they
Well,
call.
some-
They have
They
their
all
own
call their
agreement
own.
out
Yeah,
there right
some have
now, and they
different
call them when
requirements.
they need them.
So
You
Joanne,
just have the
would
departments to be responsible
we
for it.
need
Yeah.
to just have it covered for
They're having a shredding day.
the treasurer's office, us? I mean, because I know Kelly Jo has Iron Mountain, because I was there one day when they had all those totes lined
Right.
up.
Yep.
And they let them in and emptied it. I wonder if we could get a deal with Iron Mountain since they're already coming, but I don't know how often she has them come.
Well, they're not quite often.
Are they?
I know at least 3 times a year.
Well, I apologize, Joanne. I thought we had asked you to start looking into it, because I knew
No.
once Bill stopped shredding or coming to pick up, it was gonna become an issue here, but like you said, I knew Kelly Jo already had, I remember in that.
And most of the departments take care of it
They're
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they call
Maybe.
themselves, because we gave them their number. They just set it up themselves.
Really?
And it was just that,
We haven't had any issues since we started giving them shred it and Iron Mountain.
Well, I know
and
that,
there's a local man, you know, up there that Glenn uses too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
because I know Amy had, do you guys still have boxes or something that need picked up to be shredded?
I don't know.
She had sent us, remember Joanne? She sent us.
She had I think Bill took those after, you know, even after she had
The
them
toters
filled,
that were
those
filled.
toters that were
Yeah.
filled.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
He said
think these
after
are
that,
filled.
Don't take anymore since he's saying he's not
I
gonna.
don't
do
think
it
these
for you
ones here are
guys
fillable.
Or anybody.
So then we need to get
Yeah.
a
I think they're empty.
for,
Yeah.
So Bill
what
doesn't
about
pick
you
them up.
guys?
Well, we, like I
No,
said,
Amy
we only
probably
do
wanted them.
once a year.
Well, we probably
So when we
should
get,
probably
when we
those
get
in
our
the
boxes that we're going to get rid of,
They shouldn't be filled anymore.
we call the guy
Yeah.
in one time and they're gone. We don't have anything continual that we shred.
And you just, you know those paper boxes
Yeah,
with contents on,
Like
we
the
write
banker
contents on
box?
the outside, we transfer it to our list to destroy, and they just take the box. You don't need like a big toter like that, because those are heavy.
I know.
I don't exactly know. I don't know what Amy used to pull to put in those toters. Yeah, I don't know that it was stuff that would have ever been boxed up. I think it's just like maybe, Julie, would it been like the agendas, the extra.
Yeah, I think
copies
it's
of
her
that
agendas
you
and
made or
stuff, yeah.
whatever. That's a whole lot different than the records that we, I mean, we have
Yeah.
vendor records from this year or contracts from this year that we don't need anymore, that we box.
That's just
And then
recycling.
the year comes up
Yeah.
and we get rid of them.
I don't think
en
it needs to be
masse.
shredded.
No,
It's more because she
It's
keeps
just
extra
recycling.
copies of those. I guess generally you would shred them in a shredder and then they'd go out in the dumpster kind of
just
thing.
in the regular.
Yeah, I don't know, but because I think a lot of your records that would have been boxed are all out at the record center at this point. I don't know that you guys box, you box anything else up, Julie?
No, we keep it all on site here.
See? We have
It's in that
everything
room.
here now.
I think we got 5 years here.
You have 5 years there, so then anything else must be at the record center.
Mhm.
And then that would be, if your record retention schedule says you can get rid of them, that's the kind of stuff then that you would do one mass shredding on. That's what I'm looking at.
Am I hearing that we don't shred on a regular basis, that we'd have to worry about it on this floor then?
She was just saying like those toters,
Yeah.
that's just recycling. It's not even being shredded.
Yeah, I think Todd and HR needs shredding, but our office, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I mean, you need to distinguish between what document actually needs shredded versus can you just put in a normal disposal, either recycle or shred. HR records, for example, the personnel files and whatnot, not only need shredded, but someone from HR has to witness it being
Well,
shredded.
is Bill still gonna come and pick up the recyclables here?
No.
I didn't think that
Well,
was, because we have those recycling
Did we,
totes, so
didn't we
where's?
see
He said
those?
there's a charge for it.
Are you talking about the big dumpsters outside?
Well, not, but we have like the
Yeah,
totes
he's
on
not
our.
So
taking
I-
those anymore.
I
He's
said
done.
you guys need to give those toters back to him because he's not.
Those are Amy's.
As far as I know, he wasn't coming back in and picking those
That's
up.
what I thought, but I keep
Yeah.
seeing them.
Yeah, he needs to come pick them up because I don't know what else
You
you're
say
gonna
Amy
do.
Wasn't even talking about selling those last week?
He said
Yeah.
she wanted to.
That's what he did in the past. I mean, he had an option a while back where he got rid of some vehicles and he sold a bunch of toters.
And that's what he was talking about
Yeah.
just recently when I was out there, that they're going to, if you'd like to buy it, it's yours for $100 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that
But we can get them out there.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think.
Well, we
he
would
just
have
needs to
him
come-
call and come and pick them up.
Yeah, we've got guys that'll come in and pick up.
Yeah.
pick 'em up.
So Shannon, can you do that? Would you guys be the one, or should we have, because it's not just this floor, I don't think. Do you guys
Well, he
still
sent out
have?
that mass email, remember?
I don't think I don't know of any other toters on the
Because
floor.
everybody got
I
rid
think
of
it's your
them.
guys' again.
Remember when Dawn sent out the email saying, please have all your toters, we're no longer picking them up?
Yeah,
The
well,
last
that's why
call.
I'm surprised we still have them in there. That's why I was asking.
We got 2 of them sitting down
Yeah.
I'm sure Bill would send somebody to pick them up for you guys.
Hey, Julie, can you call Alta Solid Waste and then have them come up? Because I hate for people to keep putting stuff in there because they're thinking, and I thought to myself,
Yeah,
I was
no.
like, you don't want them there, 'cause you don't want them to start.
We got letters from him on the big dumpsters out there
Right.
about what he was going to
there.
charge us.
Correct.
And all I was gonna do was I'm going to ask Waste Management and the people that pick up our regular trash, what they will charge us to do the recycling.
at the same time.
In case it's cheaper than what Will's gonna charge.
Yeah. Yeah, so Julie, you'll call and
I'll
get our
call them.
toters, because I know, I've been putting it there because I'm thinking, I thought I remembered he wasn't gonna do it, but then I'm thinking, why do we still have the containers there? And then I feel obligated, and like, we have all these recycling.
Yeah, we'll still have
And that's
that. That's the
container.
recycling.
That's basically
That's
for the
something
daily
recycled.
garbage recycle that goes out in the big dumpster outside.
That's what Larry
Yeah,
collects.
that's what Larry picks up.
Okay.
He picks up that recycling and also.
But he
the
takes it
garbage.
out to the big container every day.
Correct.
Cause see, we had the
We
big
balance it.
can where we used to have to take our recycling and we dumped it all in there.
Yeah, we still do
Right, you
that.
guys still do that.
My
We
department
still
still
do
does
that.
it, but
We
we dump it at the toters.
Don't dump it in the toters, Todd.
Oh,
Lazy.
Tell me I'm supposed to walk it out there and I walk it out there.
All right, I'm telling you. you
Walk
should
out
walk it
there.
out there.
That was the rule 5 years ago.
I I did know, but it was still there. We didn't, where are we at? Okay. So you don't think we need to do anything about the shredding? And
Not
it
just-
doesn't sound like we.
Not just yet, I.
We don't need to
think what
shred
we need to
anything,
do-
I don't
You know,
think.
I'll have to, I'm gonna respond to Brad and say, what is it that you're actually shredding that you're having to take out there so that we can kind of get an idea? I mean, I can survey the offices to see if they have existing contracts with a company to do theirs. And if that's the case, and if it's not the case, then we can do a request for proposals for people to try to get one company to do it all.
Okay. Yeah, because like I said, I know he was one of the ones that had the concern about the shredding.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't know what they shred.
And then we had Amy who had boxes that we shredded, but that just sounds like it's a year-end thing that they do once a year. Is that right, Julie?
Mhm.
We don't really have.
This year we didn't because Chris said
It's
we're in
not actually
lawsuits with
record shredding,
15.
it's just your extra copies of this or copies of that. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't, okay. And then so Joanne, you'll assess the building then, just in your spare time?
I got plenty of it.
Gotta get you in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the way it's always been.
I know, that's what I mean,
When
get you in
somebody
trouble.
says, well, can we or do we, and then nobody steps up, I stepped up.
I
and
know,
that's
but
what-
that's what I'm saying, is there someone else that we should have?
Not right now, I mean, that's,
Okay, okay. All right, Station 30. Should we have Ryan talk to us about Station 30? Because I actually heard that they wanted to get rid of Station 30, but then they had all the equipment, but they were willing to give the equipment to the individual political subdivisions, but then they don't really have the storage and want.
they don't have the storage, and I don't think that they
So-
want to be responsible for the maintenance then, if it gets handed off to them.
And I think Tony had a wonderful idea or a thought and concept was maybe we get rid of Station 30 and keep the motor pool and move Ryan's stuff there, but Ryan said it's not big enough because they have to keep certain equipment stuff plugged in, certain vehicles, so that they are ready and they have to be sheltered.
No, we're talking about inside the building. They can take those big trucks they have and drive those things inside that, and they can do 4 or 5 of them.
I know, but Ryan said it's not big enough.
Well, you need to, and again, and this is part of where, we're already fragmenting in this conversation. That's not a criticism, it's just a reality.
There's a day's talk for
We
each
keep talking
building.
all these individual things and that's all it ever amounts to. There is the potential for some of that equipment to go to other entities. We actually have requests on hand right now for entities who would like some of our equipment. So the question is, do we want to divest ourselves of it and then reduce that fleet down to where it can fit into one of the areas? The building behind Ryan's is actually his, but he doesn't have anything in it right now. The sheriff has indicated he's eager to start auctioning off some of that surplus equipment that is in it. At the same time, the sheriff needs dispatch room, which they're eyeing Ryan's space. So the question is, do you move EMA entirely? In which case one other facility makes sense. Those are a bigger picture issue that, and again, if all you do is talk about Station 30 and all you say to Ryan is, well, do you need that building? Well, the answer is yes. Right now he needs that building because he doesn't have any place else to put that stuff.
So Ryan's got to give us a plan, which
The bigger
equipment he
picture,
gets
though,
rid
is,
of right now.
are there other buildings in the county where we could get that? Or is it cheaper to build a pole building for the 1 or 2 things that really do need housed? I mean, that's the coordination that
And that's
tends to
why
fall
I
apart.
say, when we talk about Station 30, Ryan probably really needs to be involved in that
When
discussion.
you get down
because
to each of these facilities, you're gonna need to bring other people
each
in.
people, yeah.
Department.
The question is, how bad, in your opinion, are each of these so that we know which ones we need to start with? We talked about the airport, we're gonna talk with Chris on it on Thursday. The record center will move forward with the thing on the dog warden. I don't know where we are on the roof, but we'll get to that. The Justice Center, there's still the driveway and whatnot that needs repaired on it that was put off because of the contractors coming in and out.
So the
now
contract is
Station
just about
30.
done, the juvenile
Well, they're
detention.
doing the punch list, hopefully by July, do we think?
Wait a minute.
You're talking two
You're
different
talking
things.
Juvenile.
You said
Oh, Justice Center.
Justice Center.
Justice Center.
Okay.
Their driveway needs redone, but we put it off while the construction was happening.
I thought
It
we
was
had,
redone.
I thought it was redone when they, right before they left, they got that done for us.
That's what I'm not sure if they
They
did.
did
So
not,
is that
yeah.
covered? Okay. So Station 30 motor pool's vacant. Station 30, you need to decide what to do.
I just had the closure done on the tanks.
Good.
And they are still motivating with the state fire marshal that we're going to take the underground storage tanks out. We do have to take them out. We can't sell that place to anybody without doing that. Now you're gonna talk about, or you're gonna wanna know about the stuff that's inside.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff inside there. It was inventoried. We had a company that came out and did that. Now, I don't, if you want other departments to go out there and take their picks, I don't know how you're going to, somebody's gonna have to be there to make sure of what is gone, to make sure that it gets to the appropriate inventories. I don't want to be that person. There's a storage facility on the second floor that was Joe's office that turned into a pack rat file room. So there's all kinds of records down there, and I've asked Chris Maduro to give me what we need to do, because those are now whose records, I guess they're the boards, since we closed the motor pools. Who's gonna be responsible, because I'm going to tell you, I got a copy of his record retention thing, and there's what, 7 items on it? And there's a lot more stuff out there than that. So that means somebody's gonna have to go through those records. Is that another idea of bringing those records, if we wanna get rid of that building? Bring those records down here and have someone go through them in whatever?
did we ever get everything that Joe requested? I know he had a request, he felt that he still had stuff there, but we had to wait till the inventory and stuff was done.
The only thing that I was aware of that we could point out was the microwave, and I don't know if he picked that up or not. I'd have to go out there and look myself, I guess. He said that there were tools out there, but again, the day that they were told, they had all day long to get everything that was their personal stuff out of there. And they took all of that day. We had the security people from down there go there. So it's hard to say what he would say was his and what say is not.
But I thought after the inventory done, we did decide that we would let like Mickey and Bill Steiner and Gene Water Resources go out there and see what they wanted just to get it.
And like I said, you can do that, but you're getting, maybe you don't care about the inventory and who's responsible for it. Right now, that inventory belongs to you guys.
Mhm.
The fixed asset the auditor's gonna have are gonna, they're, I guess, would morph to you guys. And if you're gonna give it to whoever, then I guess you're gonna trust whoever to give you a list and say, this is what we took. I know that maintenance made a list of everything that they wanted out of there.
Okay.
And you guys
But
are done.
here's our concern too. Maintenance can't stand out there with county engineer for 5 hours while they get their stuff out. That's what we're asking. Who do you want to go down there? Because they don't have that kind of time. I'm sure guys already.
Well, the best way might be to get them the inventory list first. Have them mark some of the
Yeah.
items, and then the board decide whether it's worth digging up or not. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna auction what's left, and you have to provide an accurate record to the auctioneer of what you have. So somebody does need to tally off as it's taken or not, and Joanne's saying she doesn't have the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have, came in a binder this big. I'll be happy to make copies and give
Don't
them.
make copies.
Whatever, no problem there. But that's gonna, if that's what
It's
you
just
want, if that's how you want to
overwhelming.
proceed, that's what we can do. And then they can figure it out that way.
Were we able to, your maintenance has the things that they want out? And they've been inventorying what they're taking, correct?
They've been right, they wrote everything down that they took
Everything
out
down.
of there.
So we've got water resources, we got
Solid waste.
solid waste, and
And the
we,
engineers.
and engineers. So do we allow each one of those to come in, say, hey, this is your time frame to come in, tell us what you want, and take it?
Well, that's what I heard Todd give you a suggestion about giving them the inventory and letting them mark what they want and then come and pick it up. Or if you're saying go out there and these are what I want, we'll make the list and do whatever.
So
It's
I
gonna be
would,
done either way.
I was just out there. I mean, to go through thousands or hundreds of pages of figure out what I want is crazy. And if you walked out there, you could see a whole bin of nuts and bolts that you get rid of.
But
But there's huge,
accounted for.
it needs to be accounted for, but there's huge pieces of equipment that Mickey said he wanted, solid waste would like. And say, we're gonna take that, we're gonna take it now. And take that off the list.
Yeah, Bill Steiner's gotten a couple pieces of equipment that they
Yeah.
needed to use, and I made him write down, you know, we have that list of what.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Because then I know
think
you
it'd
want
be
it.
easier to schedule each of those departments to go out there and then create the list of what they take and what they want, they need to move or whatever, versus if that binder, I mean, that's pretty
It's a lot.
tedious.
Well, but at some
Because it was
point,
very
again, at
detailed.
some point, you gotta edit down to what's still left there.
Yeah,
And either you're gonna re-inventory it and create a new document, or you're gonna check it off the existing document. I don't know which is easier, but
yeah,
whatever's left has to be sold
yeah.
or thrown out and disposed of.
I would think that it would probably be easiest to have each of those individual departments go out there and actually pick out what they want and create the list. But then we'd have to have someone out there with them to verify, you know.
Do Tuesday afternoons, I'll go out Tuesday afternoons with each department.
Yeah.
Tuesday, give them I sent that email, give them a day, if you want anything, meet out here at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
And we've got 3 hours, you pick it, you inventory it, and then your job is get it out. We can mark it, and then we do the next one, there's only 3 departments to go. And then,
yeah. It needs to be done. I mean, that stuff's been sitting there for what, 2 years, but it took us how long to even get the inventory done? I mean,
it's
it
huge.
was a long process, but that's what we had to do, correct? Before we even started to give this stuff away.
When I have a question about, there is vehicles out of water resources that Joe had the manuals for.
That's where the record request that I sent to Chris Maduri is. Those records, the manuals that he kept on and guarantees and warranties and all that kind of stuff on all those vehicles are there in the building,
Right.
but they're not on his retention schedule. So I asked the question of Chris saying, okay, I would think that the commissioners are the custody now of those records, but seemingly the record retention policy is if they're not on your schedule, then you keep them forever. Can we then, since they're not on the schedule, can we just have them transferred to water resources, and then water resources has to put them on their retention schedule or something? I don't want to do something that isn't modified with the record retention.
So we've got that request in the
I'm
Chris.
just waiting for Chris.
So
to
you're
give me
already
the answer
working
on
on
that.
it.
So,
Yeah.
I asked 2 weeks ago.
I just wanted to make sure that he's gonna give me some kind of
Yep.
procedure on what we need to do. Because I didn't realize that there was such a pack rat mess,
Oh,
Yeah.
especially on the second floor.
There's like
Did you go
7,
up to the second
I-
floor?
we
I've
did,
been up
yeah,
there.
it looks like the bonfire did again.
Glad
But you got all those
you-
filing cabinets across the back side. I think
Filing
there's 10 or
cabinets,
10 or
Correct.
12 filing
Some of them are
cabinets.
empty, right?
None of those
Pardon?
things.
Were they empty?
I don't know. Yeah, that's where Sonny had said, those records are sitting in that cabinet.
A
Yeah,
lot
no,
of that is
that's-
the invoices, those can be thrown out after 3 years. So like Joanne said, some of it's the warranties and
That's why I said there's,
All that.
it's gonna take, the records have to be disposed of properly, that's all I know, or kept.
So we need to
One way or
hold
the
off
other.
on that. So right now, if we can just get rid of some of the supplies
Equipment
in there.
inside, and then like I
Tuesday
said, as soon as
afternoon.
he-
After
And as
lunch.
soon as he,
Two.
No, actually, today was my last Tuesday working before I got here. So I closed my office on Tuesdays. So
And the
It's just,
afternoon.
It's just solid wastewater and the engineer, right?
pardon me?
It's just solid waste, water and the engineer.
yes,
Three of
that's
them,
all.
yeah.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
three.
just three.
Get a date in the next 3 or 4 weeks and let's
And
do
you
it.
said your guys have already been through there?
I had them going in and saying, because,
'Cause they have to
That's
change
general
everything,
fund
so it's
money.
easier.
and I wanted them, of the general fund, not to have buy equipment if we had stuff out there that they
Mhm.
could look.
Yeah.
So they've got their stuff marked and
Yep.
piled.
They actually,
all
it
in
is
one
packed up
trailer.
and gone. They had
Yeah.
the vacant, truck.
And,
Yep, it's
the only
down
thing
there.
that I know that the county engineer wanted was a lift.
Mhm.
But once they get in there may be something else that they
Sure.
see, because they're pretty well outfitted.
But we
But we were trying to get to people who didn't have money first.
And I think Bill definitely
Yeah.
runs things up.
Yeah, Bill would be.
Yeah.
I'd bring in Mickey's guys first and then bring Bill in, so, because there's I know he wanted a lift as well.
Who did?
Bill Steiner, solid waste.
So,
If it's not the same.
Man, I hope it's one of those two.
Well, the one that failed, was that repaired adequately?
We got brand new ones.
Oh, did we?
They look
did we-
pretty.
Brand new
yeah,
ones.
because there's what, about 4 lifts out there?
2 huge ones, 2 small ones.
Yeah, I wanted to
And
say
I don't
there's.
know, well, Bill probably does have the height. I think that was one of the other things that might have been, I know that.
Is that solid waste?
Solid waste, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, just for the sake of time, running over here a little bit. Woodstown Water Building, is there anything?
It's actually a very nice building.
It's water resources takes care of that,
Water
right?
resources, yeah. Gene has indicated that, he has his work crews meet out there, but they don't necessarily use it as office space. I know there's been a few times where he's talked about if the county needs it for office, he would be willing to alter how they use that facility. But in terms of the facility itself, nothing needs done. It's
Yeah, 'cause
the
that's a
newest
brand
facility we
new
have right now.
facility.
How big a building is that?
Hmm?
How large a facility is that?
It's not that big.
1,000,
There's
2,000?
probably 3 offices in the back, 2 large conference room style things.
In the front?
And then it does have like an entryway with a payment counter. I mean, it was their building, so there's a counter with a window like for payments and whatnot.
Is that Bill Steiner's in that building?
No, like I said, right now, their
When we
work
took
crews
over
meet out there to start their
Woodstown
work.
Water, Gene just
you know.
took the building.
It
But
was
it's on the list
originally,
because it is a
I thought that
facility.
it would make a perfect place for the Veteran Service Commission.
And that's
If
what
they
I'm
were
still
there.
thinking that
Because they
that'd be
don't really,
nice.
I don't know how much they really interact with our county. I mean, they're veterans. I mean, that would have been a good place for them to kind of be able to have their own, the veterans
There's a
go
lot
right
of-
there, right there, go in there.
Yeah, it's on one level too, so it's like for
Yeah.
wheelchair
Yeah.
accessible. and
Have we
everything.
told them there's a possibility, veterans?
No. we don't
I've
like
never
any
said
false
that
hope.
to them. I
No,
only-
Excuse me?
I only brought
We
it
don't
up-
like any false hope, so it's never been mentioned.
I only brought it up to the
Yeah.
commissioners
Yeah.
when we were trying, when we got the building on, that could be a purpose that I thought
Yeah.
was a good fit. And I think I know that they've got probably those buildings in the back are full.
And they'd like to keep those for storage. There's that
And there's not a
barn.
problem with that
Um,
because the veterans has a few vans that they drive back and forth to Cleveland, but
Now, the question is whether that's gonna be the case with the new, I mean, I know they've complained about they're tight in their own building. But they haven't added people, so it's not been too big
Are
an
you saying
issue.
in building this?
In the water resource building,
Oh,
not
yes.
on infirmary, space is tight. Anyway, but I just know in the past, it's been brought up as a possibility for the county's plans. But now, again, John being the interim, or if you hire someone, it is water resources facility, there would have to be some sort of exchange of funds to transfer for other use.
Why would there have to be an exchange of funds? Because
Water
we got
resources money cannot pay for anything other than water resource services, and
Okay.
so if you're using it for something else, that means.
well, we didn't pay for it.
Water resource did in terms of taking over the liability of Woodstown.
water.
It has,
Oh,
it
just
has an
because of the
asset
water, you
value.
mean?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, that building was free and clear, and that was a
Yeah.
big stripe in our community.
But it has a value to water resource,
Okay,
and that value would need compensated for, because that value is part of what transferred to water resource. when it first
gotcha,
started.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay, well then they need to take Hills Pond Dam back. And all the
It's a
problems
long
with
story on that one.
Water
Because
resource-
the only reason we bought that was because of water resources, and then all of a sudden, oh, we don't want to be responsible for it anymore,
That's the exchange of funds.
huh?
That's the
Well,
exchange of funds.
The commissioners declared that dam unnecessary, which is part of what necessitated transferring it back to the general fund, because once you declared it no public use, water resource couldn't continue to operate.
Cool decision.
They weren't operating the dam, but they
No,
were
the-
using the water,
Right, yeah,
and they're still using the water, right?
not for anything they do, at least to my understanding, I don't know anyway, it
Cool.
wouldn't, it wouldn't.
Now
do
we
it.
got, now we morphed onto it as a different
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah, keep on moving.
Okay, so
It wasn't
Woodstown
good
Water
either,
Building,
actually.
there's nothing that really needs
It's
on
empty.
there.
No, not that, well, I've never been in there, to be honest with you, even when, it was operational for the water department, I've got to believe that it's in good.
Well, hopefully when we get a new director, we'll
Yeah.
go over all
We can
that.
ask
No work needs done, but that is a highlight of, perhaps that's where some overflow could go in some of these other spaces.
The Riddle, are we talking about Riddle Block?
Yeah.
What
So
all
here's my
does-
opinion on Riddle.
Yeah, let's hear it, Daniel.
I think that unless you can find
Yeah, someone.
space in the city of Ravenna
Mhm.
or somewhere else for adult probation, CSEA, public defender, that we need to take and put the money into that building to bring it back to what it needs to be. Because those people, first of all, they're not, I know them well enough to know that they're not gonna wanna move away from the courthouse because it's so close. You'd have to rent somewhere else in Ravenna for them, and I don't know where that would be or what you end
They're
up
paying
paying.
on space.
We own technically that building, so I figure we should just fix it and keep them there then, and that's, I think we should use some of our money and get that building brought up to snuff.
Well, and I thought the last time we brought that up about possibly doing something with Riddle Block or selling it, I thought the judges also indicated they do not want the probation. Because
That far away.
at that point in time, I think we had room down here, and they
Wait.
said,
Adult probation would easily fit in the annex. But that's not, when they're called to go to the court, they run to the courthouse and have to, or meet their people, I get that. And perhaps there's going to be a time when you may have to move somebody out of that courthouse again, and you may have to make room for them in Riddle or something. I don't know, because it's right, I think I saw, something said about the Ravenna courthouse being tight on space. And they are.
and
Yeah,
then there's
yeah.
rumors that eventually they may add another common pleas.
Imagine if they do, where you putting that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Riddle building,
They currently qualify.
riddle building. So,
But that's just my opinion on that building. It would be great to sell it and get it out of our lives, but
And the reality
renting
is,
from whoever bought it.
so we have the riddle building needs a new roof.
Top point,
It's about $350,000, $400,000 for
yeah,
a
I
new
have to
roof.
get you that.
So wouldn't there be, because of the age of that building, grant money that we?
No, we
No,
can try. I know,
no,
it's
for,
considered in the
it's a
historical.
historic building.
which is all the more reason no one else wants to
No,
come
no,
and touch it.
no, I'm talking about grant money to fix the roof.
No.
No,
Hmm.
why no?
I'm not aware of any. We can look, historical preservation for private entities. There's perhaps some nonprofits that will assist. To my knowledge, counties don't qualify for even a fraction of that. In terms of state funds and whatnot, maintenance is our issue.
And
it's
it being
difficult to do.
historical. makes it
Just
more
makes it more
expensive
expensive,
to,
yeah.
Right.
like, we have to replace the windows.
Now,
And
could
we
you
have to
use-
have the certain windows that are approved by the
Certain
city.
glass
And the roof too, the point tuck and then the metal around the top.
Yeah.
Now,
I
could you
get
use
that.
your CDBG funds as a grant because it's in Ravenna? Yes, you probably could. That's a decision you're gonna have to make though, in terms of taking that money for yourself and not putting it out to others. That would be about the only funding source for something like that. And then some of the nightmares, it's currently slate, the majority of it. Pulling that off and putting it with something else then is technically destroying the historical. And so even historical grants they'll require you to do slate if you have slate.
On the roof, those 2 peaks or 3 peaks are slate. The rest of it's rubber.
The part of it on the on
Outside.
the side that's by, what's that hot dog?
By the courthouse, right?
Yeah, it's on that
By
street,
the
that
hot dog
whole
street.
street.
Just the street side you're talking about?
Those
Yeah.
those angled sides
Yeah,
that are, and
yeah.
that's on the courthouse side. And then you've got that 1 peak that's
And
there.
some of it's imitation slate up there too.
Correct. So they've already
Yeah,
done that.
and they allow the imitation slate.
The key is if
Who you
we're,
talk to on
if
this
we are
stuff
gonna
is
keep
like,
it, let's put the money into it.
they-
Because right now it's bleeding us dry.
I was
just
already
with
there once for part of the roof.
Please, just-
upkeep type projects, like the elevator and all that type of stuff. I mean, let's spend the money, get it done right, and then we're done with it for a
Well,
while.
we
It
just
doesn't
put a
become-
lot of money in the
Elevator.
elevator.
Oh my
We
God,
did
it's
that
fixed,
last
right?
year, the year
Right.
before, so that's good.
Yeah.
The windows are gonna be an issue.
The windows, and it has to be tuck pointed because the water's coming through the walls.
Well, then to be honest, the second and third floors, I mean, the prosecutor has a nice area, not the prosecutor,
The
public
public
defender.
defender.
But that was gutted and redone to that. The second, third floors are like catacombs. Do you do remodeling in there to make them more office-like?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta start with the roof and you gotta start with the point tuck.
Start from the
The
outside
tucking
in,
point, yeah,
Tucking
and the
point.
windows, yeah.
which we have to be fitted out.
Have we ever got a bid, or do we have an approximate amount of what it would take?
We had the building thing, I think.
We have the roof.
We're gonna have to get an engineer or an architect to do the specs we'll need on the the tuck point and the window replacement. Because again, we're gonna have to get specific ones.
I know.
I know Mayor still went out there to look at the, because I said, well, we just got this little leak right here. He goes, oh, honey, you got leaks all over it. But he said it was at least, at one time it was over $80,000 and that wasn't even
It'll all have to
for
be
tuck
done,
pointing.
when we get to a point, because it's.
We'll keep looking for grant funds, but I'm. I mean, we look all the time, but.
So that takes us to the admin building here.
Well, did we finish with Ravenna Courthouse? Because I wanted to bring up their
Oh.
parking lot.
You know what, I'm going down.
Okay, I
But,
don't know.
okay, that's
I
okay.
just got this, no, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, we can go ahead since it's.
Or if you want to stop and. do whatever you do.
No, continue, please.
Okay,
I'm having a great time.
so, I'm sorry, you were going to where?
Oh, the Ravenna Court, we can go to the Ravenna
Okay,
Courthouse.
I just wanted, all I basically wanted to make sure that we point out is that their whole parking lot needs to be redone, it needs to be all hogged out, we need to take out those stupid
Yeah.
Basketball.
No, on the rail.
guardrails, get them out of the
Every time
middle
they-
of it.
Put more and more and more up and then it just started.
And then the places that are green, we need to pave over. I mean, I know the city was, Ravenna was fighting with us because they wanted more green space. But right now, we're very close with that building of not having enough parking, especially when all of the courts have jurors coming in. Because
Yeah.
jury parks in the same where we would park the
Yeah,
employees.
right.
So Joanne, the parking lot though directly behind where the judges and stuff park, does that one need done too?
No, I don't,
That probably has to be sealed.
Yeah.
I was gonna
gonna
say, that's
that
been
one
done,
didn't
that
look
was
too
just
bad.
done. No, I'm talking
But it's the
about
one
On Cross Street.
I'm talking about the one where the employees park.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one's pretty
that's-
bad.
And
And then we have that one, and then we have another one on the
That's
corner.
where the jurors park.
And
it's
then
all
what about
connected.
the one next, that's right directly behind the church?
That's all connected.
It's all.
That's all
okay.
courthouse parking with, if the employees aren't parking there, then they've got the jurors there. And that's why I said that the few spots in there that are grass still, that needs to all come out and it all needs to be parking. And I know that what's the city thing called, Todd?
Main Street
Main Street
Ravenna.
Ravenna.
Yeah.
I know that something that I think I saw is what they wanted to take more of that parking lot and make brick paved ways for walking and stuff.
And
And
put
I'm
more
like,
green space.
beautiful
and
idea, but
trees
you
and-
guys don't realize it's not a.
It's
I
not
think they
practical for
Well,
our
and I think they thought it was
operations.
an actual public parking. I don't think they realized it was parking for the
You know
employees
what?
and the
I think
jurors.
you're right. I think you're right, because I think, because the public uses it after hours.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
did not
yeah.
consider that during business
That's why I
hours.
said 80% of the land they're landscaping is our land.
Yeah,
And I just, well, while it looks beautiful, I would agree, the rendition that I
well,
saw,
sure,
but it's just not
but
practical.
it's not
for our use.
practical, and there's even an opportunity or a chance that we could need even more parking if it expands in the courthouse.
Mhm.
So.
How soon do you think that needs done, Joanne? I mean, is
that
it
is
this
a
year?
way
Is
past it now.
that a this year if we can, or is it a 5-year?
No, I think we need to do it this year,
Mhm.
the parking lot, because it's got a great deal of ruts and stuff in it that we would have sealed it
It's a
if we
liability.
thought that we could get a few more years out of it.
Yeah.
But
I
there's no
prefer-
way. And like
So
I
we're
said, those
talking-
guardrails that are in the middle of it take up a lot of problems, especially when the guys try to plow.
Mhm.
So we don't need those in there anymore. We just need to pave it, and put parking spots in, which I guess I will have to get, do I have to get that approved with judge in charge of the courthouse or?
That would be the administrator, which would be Judge Pittman.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to get it.
Let her
approved.
know, well, I just need to let her know that that's what we're doing because.
Oh,
I-
yeah, because we own. the-
Especially when we go to like kind of meet people, right? when
In the
they're-
courthouse, I think she'd be excited to
You guys
get that
can't
done.
afford this whole week for us, please.
No, let me go to do that, I want to film.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't happen, yeah.
But we have, and I have to get an architect or an engineer for that as
To drop
well.
it.
So,
In terms of,
and who on staff is gonna, because bids will have to be written, drawings will have to be made.
Drawings of what?
Hmm?
Drawings of
To
what?
redo.
the parking lot.
Parking
to do
lot.
that.
So they
For
expand
the parking lot on how deep and what, the cement has to be, blah, blah, blah. They'll actually line it out. Oh, yeah.
It's not just a repaving, she's talking, I mean, it needs,
It needs to be done,
Yeah,
right?
they need to take,
Gut it out.
it's.
I called it hog it out, but yeah, they're gonna have. major-
6 to 8 inches out.
She's got it.
Yeah. And then, you know what, I
Want it
can't
done
say
right.
anything because it's lasted for a good many years.
Mhm. Yeah, it
We
looks like it's
wanted to do
lasted.
that again when we
Yeah.
put the money in there. So,
Yeah,
Widow block, I don't mean to go backwards, but when we talk roof and tip pointing again, are we talking this year, or are we talking sometimes in the next 5?
I'm looking at this and we got the airport, that's the Riddle block, the Ravenna courthouse. And there's got, to me, that, and we've got a couple other ones to go, and I'd like to go to this building that need to be, they're disasters.
we're talking big money for the whole,
Right.
oh, yeah.
if you thought you'd wanted to try to do that this year.
2 to 3, spread that out, but there's obvious ones popping out that have to be done now. The parking lot's one of those ones that really probably should do now. Riddle block, I start looking at just the list we've gone through, Riddle block is high up there. Does everything have to be done at the same time? You'd have to do a roof, then the windows, then point talk. And those could all be separate
So we're
separate
gonna do
deals.
a roof this year, or, I'm just trying to lay out a
Yeah.
schedule here, what we're trying
Wait,
to
let's
accomplish.
finish going through the list, because I think right now, the courthouse parking lot, the airport, and then something on Riddle Block, because we've got to chip away at that.
Yep. I agree.
Not that it has to all be done, but
Like the dog warden stuff is all
But
small.
if you're gonna hire, my question is, I need to know this fast. If you're hiring an architect for Riddle Block, why would you have them like do it all?
Yes. Yes, all in one thing and give us, so we could set what Todd wants, is a 1, 2, 3, 5-year plan to get that stuff
so
done.
that we can
Right.
get moving. But like I said, the architect can do it, but are we gonna be able to do it all in 1 year? We may have to.
Well, once
do
you
it
have the
in
plan,
phases.
you
Yeah.
can piece it out.
Yeah.
You know.
What about the prosecutor's building? What needs done with that Taj Mahal?
So I
The
would
only
just,
thing we know of that's really pain about the whole thing are the windows, but there's the window, one window basically.
The third floor, the back, where Skip Gray owns that other building.
but it's
We
a
get rain in a certain
$100,000
way,
repair.
it comes in.
Did they come up
That's
against that
not even
window?
fix it,
We've
Todd.
had
Oh, boy, now you guys say one
people
window.
out on it. We've had everybody looking at it. And the last thing that the architects who designed that building had said to us was, well, you're gonna have to do kind of an investigation thing. What are you talking about? Well, they're gonna come in and they're gonna take this apart.
Take the side of the wall off.
Right, and they're going to charge you to do this, but then that's not the fix. And by the way, you'll have to shut off the electric to the whole block, which is not owned
That's ours.
totally by us. And I'm like, well, how does that get accomplished? You know, that we'd have to turn it so that those people can get on the roof and do what they have to do without getting electrocuted.
And we don't know how long,
I'm sorry,
and we
what?
don't know how long we have to turn it off. They don't know how long, like, to turn off
It's
the
gonna
electric.
take,
Is it a
Right.
day? Is it a week?
that,
How long?
that quote was 75,000. Is that
Just to look at it.
just to look?
This, yeah, that was the spider, because we don't have tie-offs on that roof, because they're a liability, they don't do tie-offs on the top of the roof. That's why they weren't
So-
installed, that's what I was told.
So that's the window and stuff that's closest to where the
Third-
lights up.
Third floor
It's in
back
that
to,
alley.
in between the two little buildings, you know, that building and then,
And you can't,
I don't know what the building is behind it, but you know what I'm talking about?
like a garage or something.
We have to shut that whole block off.
It's that
Yeah.
red
That's
building.
what they said.
It's housing.
Like
That
wires, right?
electric right there would
They're
have
right
to,
by
That
it.
huge power line's right there where they need to go over. To fix, that'd be to
Yeah,
fix.
yeah.
Now, right now, they're
What
gonna
I
use a
said.
spider to
Nothing
go
to
to
do.
anchor to one side of the building.
You can go
tie
over
out,
the
go
top.
all the way over to the other side.
The other issue,
And
I
I've been
would-
doing this going round and round with architect of ideas of what to do.
yeah.
What's else, Todd?
the other issue I would bring up with the prosecutors building, and Vic will cover me for saying it, but I bring up every year, their phones are on borrowed time. Vic loves his phone system. The issue is, do you wait until it dies and then find $1 million to replace it, or do you plan that while we have the money? Vic would prefer to wait until it absolutely can't be repaired any longer. But partly because he doesn't want the system we have in this building, which is fine. Your Justice Center also needs phones, at least Lloyd's talked about that. The question is, do you do them together to get some economies there? But
The jail didn't get new phones when we upgraded our phone system?
They have their own phone system, but yeah, it's new. And
Okay.
I disagree with,
you know,
I
that's a
disagree
debate.
with Lloyd on that they need to be replaced. The prosecutor, no. The prosecutor's running on borrowed time because the parts for his are becoming more
Harder
hard
to
to
get.
get.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's, I mean, that's a major expense.
Yeah.
It's,
and you know, ours is paid for, ours is, you know, becoming obsolete as it is itself now, but we're much farther ahead than we had been in the
Yeah.
past. And there's no reason to replace at this juncture. You know, that's the way I look at it, if it's,
It works.
you
I
know.
Even though when I
believe,
pick up my phone, my whole thing falls to
Is
the
it
floor.
all for- oh.
I believe this year, even accomplished all the rewiring
Get rid of my recycling container.
for the security and all that type of stuff. So that was the good news, that he had some money and we provided a little bit additional. Which, yeah, which was really the only other upgrade it needed, was getting some of that older wiring onto the newer, whatever you call it.
Are we, if we do the phone system, would we pitch in with the prosecutor to accomplish
Should be
that?
100% general fund.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
no,
we have
there's no
to.
resource for that, yeah.
But we gotta get him on board with the phone.
Yeah, and again, maybe if he can see that there's something else similar to what he has, you know, he may be
Well,
more
he has
inclined.
Cisco phones, which are top of the line.
Yeah.
We have my cell phones, which are not top of the line, and that's what I know that, I think he just thinks that we would take what we have here and put up there, but they don't make ours anymore. You know, they're becoming obsolete. They don't last out there that long anymore. So I would say that we would replace his Cisco system with another Cisco system is what we would probably should look at. but-
Okay.
And who would bid, just different companies bid that or the phone?
There are various companies out there that can do that, yeah.
So is that it for the prosecutor's building?
Window leak phones.
Window leak phones.
So that's $500,000.
$500,000 what? Phones?
That,
The phones or the
Between
windows?
the leak and the phone.
We don't know
The
how
leaks.
much that window. Does that take us down to the admin building?
Which is perfect.
Exactly right.
Hallucinating now.
Mhm.
So my question is that, tell me about internet and all the things that go with that, and that itty bitty pieces of this building have it, the auditor's office has internet. We don't have internet.
There's a Wi-Fi on the 6th floor.
Correct.
And for example, I think this room actually gets it. So it's just a matter of between the pipes and the bricks, where does it leak through?
Yeah.
If you walked around with your cell phone, you would find spots where it is and spots where it isn't, and it's not obvious. I mean, there are spots right next to it that can't get the reception, and there are spots farther away that do.
Mhm.
The key is that was just kind of a test for IT itself.
Mhm.
We've had estimates, I think this building was
Wasn't 600
50,000. Well, that was for all, I
That
want to
was
say
the
this building was
entire-
60,000.
When Brian Kelly's
When he did
estimates,
his, yeah.
that was for the courthouses, that was for all of our
Every
buildings that
place.
didn't have Wi-Fi.
Did
And
every-
that total was like over 400,000. I want to say this building was almost 60 or something. I don't know why I remember that.
60,000?
To get Wi-Fi so that it would go everywhere in the building. But I mean, we do have internet in terms of plugs. And the question is, how realistic is it for like an office that needs it to just buy a repeater versus do we need the whole entire building required to service it? That's never really been settled.
When I have to update my phone, I have to go home and update my phone.
Yeah. I do.
And that's what
I
I've
think
heard
that's
from other
how
people.
we
I
all-
think that's not proper.
Right,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I have that here?
When I look at the courthouses, they don't have it either. They have hotspots and they've finagled to
Well, they
get
put
it.
theirs together to get it, but it's, I mean, the
We have it in
Ravenna
the
courthouse,
courtrooms
I
now,
know they
places
spent over
where-
15,000 getting Wi-Fi.
Well, now downtown Ravenna has
Oh, great.
Wi-Fi, so I think that's helped them somewhat
Somewhat.
at the courthouse, but we still down here.
Yeah, so it's kind of been one of those issues, it's never really been a priority. We've had estimates, we've had studies done, you know, the older buildings, it takes more things to get it,
Correct.
because you get those. nooks
You're on
and
the data
crannies.
processing board. You're
That's
tasked.
what I heard. That just you got my new number one right there.
Yeah.
And it,
Makes no
by
sense.
now, we need to get new quotes, because obviously
Right.
back when
Oh,
Brian was
yeah,
here.
5 years old.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Makes no
long
sense.
been a conversation, but you know what? I also, well, Todd, you heard, I got a message from Spectrum that they had a grant that we are part of in order to get, internet out to like rural areas, but I haven't had a chance to call him back.
I talked to him yesterday.
Did you?
Just a very short conversation.
Yeah,
And he said he's gonna let us know, because they're not sure exactly the addresses they're gonna add it to for the rural as they go out towards, Brimfield and all that. But he's gonna give us the locations that they have available that they're gonna,
yeah, he was supposed to email us something, but I didn't
I
get it.
haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
I talked to him yesterday about 5,
But,
Chris or somebody.
So our admin building besides,
Besides Wi-Fi, what
Well,
else?
the other piece of that then is once you have the Wi-Fi, you're gonna start wanting to get the requests for people that want the accessories to use Wi-Fi, tablets and whatnot.
Right. It is. I mean, when
That's the next
you
phase.
you have to have a little camera hooked up there. I was shocked that, you have a camera? I was shocked that none of the computers have cameras, don't have cameras. This is like, yeah,
Laptop too.
yeah. Yeah, I bring mine in.
iPads too.
Microphones, yeah, cameras and microphones, we don't have them.
So, yeah, but Wi-Fi would be the first start of, we're talking,
I'm just happy that I have volume speaker.
Yeah.
So we can get those quotes.
Yeah.
One thing I would point out in this building, and it partly came up because of my employee, but the county as a whole is behind in handicap accessibility.
where do we, besides turning on the annex building, where do we put handicap accessibility?
I think you could probably, well.
What about the first
was
row?
The Woodstown Water Company that building had to be set up that way, right?
Probably because it was newer, right, so they had to.
Just
apply
saying,
ADA.
in case we had to put somebody out there.
Yeah.
Down here, I believe we have the first floor women's and men's restrooms.
Oh, you said restrooms? I thought parking.
No, that's okay, he was just talking about in general.
Oh,
Just
okay.
restrooms are the big ones.
Yeah, yeah.
We
But
we have
again,
the
all the,
handicap doors at the front,
Right.
yeah.
and then we do have handicap public parking
Mhm.
right
Okay.
here in the public first three rows.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Other than that, that's all that we really have.
How many bathrooms need, handicap on each floor? Just a main
We
floor?
have, we have two in the whole building, the
Okay.
third floor and the first floor. And the third floor is in the office spaces.
Where would we put it on the first floor? A second one?
But those are the, I mean, that's, how much effort do we want to put into that versus how much longer do we just wait until it is a problem? I'm just throwing that out.
Okay.
Well, the majority, the only places we have public is the first floor really. I mean, everything else, restrooms are within departments, like in the auditor's office, the restrooms are back in.
Yeah,
Right,
and they're
areas.
not open to the
So
public.
the only place that we do that we can have them is the first floor really, and then.
Third floor
like
because it
you
was
said.
renovated, and that's why.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
For those departments, do they have them open to the public then, if they're back in there? I mean, it makes
You know,
it hard.
I don't really know, I don't think they.
Well, it's not just
advertise.
public, I'm
Yeah.
talking employees as well. I mean, we had 3 years ago an issue where we had to move someone out of the annex. It's not a huge need, but it. kind of
Okay,
pops
that's
up
on the
every
list.
now and then.
That's
Yeah.
on the list there. Okay.
You know, the other part that I don't see on here is, I don't see Board of Elections.
Well, that's the admin building, so that certainly.
You
should-
just put it within, okay.
I mean, they are the admin building.
And Joanne, they had given us, remember me, you, and I think Shannon met with them, they'd given us a list, and you guys were working on the list. So how's our list coming along?
I think we got
You
accomplished
guys-
everything
they
that
wanted us
was
to
big
widen
on,
the
was
door.
big to them.
That we can't do because it's structurally not safe.
Right.
They want to
Yeah.
widen their main door?
No, they want to widen the door so that they could get pallets through because it's too heavy for them to unload stuff.
This is the door that's
On the
across,
back
Right
parking lot?
across from them.
Okay.
and down the.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
Storage area
Okay.
for that, yeah.
Mhm.
That was just impossible to make happen.
You know,
Yeah,
the
I haven't
electrical
heard
issues.
anything, from them as far as any other than they need a new,
I just got an email from them last week saying, where are we on the facilities?
oh, did you?
What,
On what facility?
Facilities?
On theirs, I mean, it's
On the
Gene, I think Gene
facilities?
kind of,
are you talking about when they had the $1 billion
well,
thing done that they wanted?
so, yeah,
Outside, they wanted their own private outside entrance to the building. They wanted everything to be taken,
Yeah.
you know, and totally restructured and redone. That we had that architectural company do, and I thought Maureen was gonna have a cow the day that the cost actually came through of what it was
Yeah.
gonna be. You know, how can you justify putting, what was it, 1.3 million? Is
that's
that
3.2 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, it was like 3.10.
Yeah.
I think we had budgeted 1.5, and it was like double.
Yeah, and I know they don't,
Yeah.
but I do know they're interested in being able to talk about more, so I don't think they think we're done.
Okay.
I'm just putting that out there.
That's on the list,
Yeah,
bottom of it.
Well, let's get our list back out, Shannon, and
I'll have to
see.
See what she didn't do.
Yeah, let's do,
I
because.
mean, I only did with the stuff that I could do maintenance wise.
Well, yeah.
Well, and what was very
We paid a lot
important to
of
them, because I said, well, what is it here that you have to have? You know,
Priority.
that, we need more outside light, we need our lights changed
We did
everywhere,
that.
we need, you know, we took care of all that,
The
so.
windows, the outer lighting.
I couldn't see putting $1 million into that room if we're building a new building. And I don't think that's on the list.
Well, and there's the hope that if we ever did take the annex down, we had to expand, would we expand out towards that way versus, yeah. That would be a perfect
Mhm.
place to expand. Swap it out.
Well, because a lot of this space is storage,
Yeah.
you know, and
But they have to be, I think, at the location of the people or something. I don't know.
Okay.
don't even-
Lot F.
But after, as far as upload goes, there's really nothing, we get that taken care of.
No, and again, this is just on the list.
Yep,
I do think
yep.
Eflat's in fairly
It's
good
in good
shape.
shape.
I didn't put on here the sidewalks, but the sidewalks in areas are not in good shape.
And like in the front of the building.
Going up,
Up the street,
You
yeah.
know, all along.
Are they the city sidewalks? though?
Mhm.
Well, no, the
Or,
ones in front of our property are ours.
That's the fight. Who's responsible for portion of it?
because
City.
normally like the city and
Because
I mean, the sidewalk
have
in front of my
people-
home is my responsibility. That's why I get assessed when I replace it, you know.
we have people who call. Inside, we're in the street going up to the
Right.
outlot, okay?
Is that between the,
And that's where all the residential homes are. Well, we're not responsible for fixing the big one in front of the residential home. you
Correct.
know? But that's what
They fall
everybody
there, though,
thinks,
like,
because
in
it's
front of
going
their
up to
house.
our parking lot that we have to do those. We do have areas that we had intended to get done this year. We try to, chop them off every year.
so that Meridian Street is the one by the front entrance. So from that parking lot, from that side of the building to the end of the parking lot is ours. The drive, the parking,
Does it have city parking on it?
Well, I don't know what we're talking about.
so the side of the building that we can come
Treasurer.
in to
Yeah.
go, if the treasurer was open, we'd go in that way,
Yeah.
that side of the
We
building.
just did all that.
So from
Yeah.
there, that's all done?
Mhm.
So then the backside,
So when you keep going, like employees walk down, let's say they're gonna walk down that sidewalk
Mhm.
towards Main Street,
Mhm.
that's Eflat, that's where they park, and that's where, that's where you're talking, right, in front of those houses?
This is the west side. You're talking,
I'm just trying to get
You're trying to figure
orientated.
out
So
where
the
we are.
F lot is the one
F1 is the big
Yeah.
fenced-in lot.
down
Right
about a
Right
half
here.
block.
Yeah, it's right
Right
there.
up here.
Okay, got it, got it,
Yeah.
okay.
it's past, like, if you're going towards Main Street.
Right.
It's almost across
Got it.
from.
Yeah.
Now, I
Before
would-
the stop sign.
I would say that
Yeah.
Yep.
the parking, the sidewalks on the Chestnut Street
Mhm.
side going up are ours,
Mhm.
because that's all our property.
Okay.
On the other side, we only have a couple lots right at the first that are ours, and the rest belong to families, residents.
Right.
But we've been trying to chop those down every year, getting more and more of them done.
You know, one thing that I would like to do, and it's not that expensive, but I like to try to do something in the lobby with our directory.
Oh, you don't like that? Come on, wouldn't it be great if it was like digital? She's like, oh, good, money, 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 but I mean, you know, they can change
What
it.
do you mean digitalized?
Just, even if we just have
No, I don't.
a glossy,
I don't.
where they.
I'm with her.
Look at me like, I'm like, I probably be the one that has to do it.
But it looks nice. I mean, our directory is so confusing. I mean, the people, people stop me all the time, and I'm like, they're looking at this thing like, it was like a movie screen, and they still can't figure out.
Well, and part of it is because they don't understand where they need to go for a dog license.
Right.
Even though you try to have it, but you can't make it be all, everything on
I
there.
know, but what
Yeah.
I'm thinking of is like when for the facilities I go, it doesn't have the digital ones. They have like that nice glossy background where you can print the letter, you can put the letters on there, but then if a department left or a tenant left, they can scrape it off and then put a new one on there. It looks like new. That's what I had at my building over here at 320 East Main Street. I mean, it's like this nice shiny board. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's like, I mean, I just think our entrance way is so. lacking.
It's
Antiquated.
Yeah, very, very.
Yeah,
Nobody
it's
does,
antiquated.
nobody does.
Just spruce it up a little bit.
I mean, it wouldn't take us a lot
I
of
don't
money
think
to do, but the biggest thing that people really struggle with is the directory. And so I don't think that's something we can look at to see, I mean,
I'm all about
More
making it
inviting or
really-
something. You're
I'm
all
all about pretty.
pretty.
yeah, Shannon's like, she loves to decorate.
There you go.
Okay, and then, to wrap it up, I have to be out of here at noon. Solid waste, miscellaneous, we're down to solid waste. On their building out there,
Well, I And that building in particular falls into the bigger plan of what is going on with the district, but, is there extra space there or not? I know one of the issues out there is their, IT infrastructure, just in terms of server and or internet connection, and the ability to access units and whatnot. But the question is, are we gonna continue to operate out of that facility? And if so, how much space they actually do those operations versus how much is there extra? It's entirely possible that some other equipment from the county, possibly Station 3 equipment, can go there.
No, it's true.
Which is a very, nice facility with access.
Transfer station, yeah.
Now, if Bill needs 100% of it to operate, then that's not an option, but if Bill's reduced capacity is gonna leave some excess room, those are some thoughts.
Wonky how that's laid out. I mean, you have to go to the steps and then
Get
it's like a big, and then like the spaces are
GPS
on
doesn't work.
the end, but then it's all this big open
Yeah.
space there.
But right now, there's no issue with solid waste, except we just don't know what its future is with that.
That's the
For
key,
that
what the
facility.
future is.
Yeah.
There's no immediate repairs that would need
No.
done per se until you decide what.
Okay,
Okay, so we're done on that one, I'd say, no?
okay.
Add 3 more places on your list.
Yeah.
We have the coroner's house.
Hoops?
The corner,
Corner.
the corner.
Yeah.
Corners.
Coroner.
Corridor, and then, yeah, they're in that corner of our parking lot.
Okay.
Can we go in
We
there?
still own the WIC building in Lisbon. And then we have the Sheriff's Training Center on Coit Road.
That doesn't need
we
anything.
maintain. No, I don't think
Yeah.
any of these, I just want to put them on your list, as those are places that we also.
I think we're trying to focus on what
Repair.
needs done.
Yeah, I don't-
though. But you're
I
right.
have to talk to the guys about WIC, down in Columbiana County, because I think we're good there, but
We just
we'll
did
have
the
to
park-
ask
we
them
just
to
did
give
the
us,
parking lot and stuff.
yeah.
And then the other thing that was not
There's still a
on here
whole
was
issue though,
Pretty
it's sitting
Glen
half empty.
Dam or Hills
Sits
Pond
half
Dam was
empty.
not on our list.
It wasn't on.
It accidentally got deleted because Kent Courthouse got duplicated. Is there anything else on Kent Courthouse? I mean, we got the steps.
No, I think that
already.
facility is
No,
good.
we're good there. We don't have any issues.
Um,
don't you? I mean.
No, it looked great.
Yeah.
We were just through it the other day. Let's
We
go
just
to,
fixed the, I'm sorry.
no,
We
please.
just fixed that whole, remember the issue they have with that big hill? The guys
Oh,
who having to
yeah.
mow it and everything, we just covered it, so it's good. We're good. We put big, like river rock.
Yeah, the
Not
biggest
big, but-
problem I remember was the front steps. Remember how they were
Yeah,
crumbling?
that's what you said, that they replaced those, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got done.
That was a, oops.
It's a beautiful facility.
Yeah,
though.
oops. That Lisbon, you say? Wick?
Yeah, Columbian.
So your guys were saying that there's people in there, it's going well.
Just wick.
Why wouldn't we sell that?
Why wouldn't you what?
Get rid of it, sell it.
Because then you
I
need to
believe
pay
that
rent
was
for.
talked about before.
Do we have to have the WIC? Are we responsible for WIC down there?
Portage
Yeah.
County agreed to combine, and so yes,
It's the
Portage
health
County
department's
is.
now though, right?
Right,
Yeah,
now
it's
it's
not
under the
Joe
health
Diorio.
department.
Yeah, the commissioners aren't in it.
We have nothing to do with that building except fixing it? Are we the rentor?
No, but
Rentee?
they own it.
No, we own
We're
the building.
we own the building.
They pay
What
us.
What I'm saying is that the program WIC belongs to the health
Health
department now,
Yeah.
both Portage and Columbiana. So if we were to sell that building, then he's gonna rent it off of whoever buys it, or
Hopefully.
find another spot for them.
So he's paying rent to us now.
Yeah, so now it's
Right.
covering for itself.
So that, I heard who bought it, but it's in Lisbon.
Right.
It's a tad bit away.
Well, the,
Problem was they didn't have anyone to
each
take it
county used to
away.
have its own grant,
Mhm.
and the state slowly tried to consolidate those. And
Mhm.
so the Portage and, is it Mahone?
Now it's Columbiana.
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 The Portage and Columbiana grant were merged,
Okay.
Mhm.
and the state won't allow for that to be reseparated.
Okay.
So because the grant is merged, for Portage County to get any money means Columbiana. get it. I mean, it's a combined.
So they split it. So we can get rid of the building, split them.
We
split-
can't resplit the grant.
No, not the grant. I'm talking about the building.
You could sell the building,
And that money would come back to you because you paid for it.
Correct.
yeah,
So-
then WIC has to find
Find
a
some-
location.
And so whoever buys the building, we could
Rent from that,
rent from that.
Mhm.
yes.
Potentially.
I mean, that, when they explained that we had that building down there,
Go out down there like 4 times a year.
that doesn't make, and if it's rented, it's easier to sell.
Well, they have space, they've been trying to rent. See, that was the other thing, when they combined the two though, and they bought that building, it was all rented, correct? They had
Down in that
tenants.
area.
Yeah,
Well, that's the reason we bought the building, because there was
Yeah.
nowhere else, but now Columbiana County has areas open.
and the county's not interested in any
That's
space
correct.
in
And
there.
that was the first person, the people we asked before about buying
Mhm.
possibly, so.
Do we owe any money on that anymore? I don't think so.
We don't owe it outright. There's always the
Maintenance.
perceived calculation of they still owe us 50,000 because the payment stopped at one point, which is an internal accounting in people's minds. We don't actually owe anything in terms of to a bank or anywhere else. The
But
county,
who owes us 50,000?
so let's say the county paid 300,000 for it, and WIC has only paid 250,000 worth of rent.
No.
In
Oh.
some people's mind, they owe us 50,000.
Yeah, but,
That's only in their mind, though. I mean, it's not on paper anyway.
but I thought they were one of the entities that could not pay the rent when they.
Well, we owned it, they could,
Correct.
which is why it stopped, and that's why it stopped short, and everybody's bitter.
Because
Not
they found
everybody,
out that they couldn't pay us rent as long as we were over WIC, but then once WIC went under the health department,
but
and that's when we started getting rent and they're paying for it.
Yeah.
So,
How do we get rid of the building? Besides some
auction.
auction.
We would,
Well, we have to
um,
seal bid.
We would get an appraisal done for the value, decide what you guys want to value it at, and then we put a bid out, or, I mean, you could do a public auction. We've never done a building that way technically, besides,
You can't get a real estate agent?
but we can do, we're not supposed to work with a realtor, but I can put a bid out, seal bid for that, so that can happen.
All right.
And I guess, you just need to say, and I would start to get the appraisal done if that's what you want to do.
That's my opinion is I don't understand why they have it.
But I know you're not making really decisions today.
No, no,
no, we're just-
What you're doing, so.
So now that we've pretty much went over the list, other than vehicle replacement, did
Well,
you?
the Pretty Glen Dam, the commissioners put that on hold last year,
What did they put on hold last year?
the Pretty Glen Dam removal of
How much does that cost now?
1.8 million.
Really?
There's the potential for grants. To be honest, two of the sources in the last year have disappeared. The stream restoration is where the grants are at, and that's Nature Works, and there's one other source. We might be lucky to get 300,000. I know at one point the architect was talking possibly 600,000, but the second source, the state no longer even offers. The other possibility of that is pairing it with sewer projects, and then you qualify for these WSRP, I don't know, I'll never say that right, funds, where you can match an environmental project to one of those projects. And the size of this project determines how much of those monies you get.
Mhm.
There's some major work coming in Streetsboro, so there is the potential for that money. However, that's a few years off, so we don't know if you want to wait. And that will be something to discuss with your new director.
Well, here's my thing. I thought we were required by ODNR to either fix it or remove it.
And so long as you're making progress, they will hold themselves at
Well, what
bay, but
progress are we
eventually they're gonna
making?
come tear it down toward you.
Well, the last thing was, we had the engineer's report
Yeah.
telling you how much it was gonna cost. What you guys gave me permission to go out and get the appraisals done, and we did that, but then that's where it stopped.
What about the easements? Did we,
But
the surveyor and the
The
appraiser.
easement
got the
appraisals are
appraisals done,
done, we've
but the
never done the
easement
easement.
piece about asking you for your property to sign off, that's where it stopped. Because you guys were saying, no, now we're gonna hold up on the money because it's gonna be this amount kind of thing. So the next step that I see is, there's gonna have to be a re-engagement of the engineering firm to make sure that we're ready to proceed to take it out should we get the easements. But then we need to have easements prepared and send them out to the people and see what that's gonna cost us. If, we have an idea because we know what the appraisals came back at, but,
So that's where we're at.
and I'm guessing that that's done by the prosecutor. I don't know who's ever asked
So
for
that's-
easement before.
So that. I
That's your
think
next
that
step.
We have to have we have to have a description, a legal description. We have to have a surveyor that would probably have to go out, because they'll have to split off. Well,
Well,
if
these
they're
are
doing an easement, it just has to have a
conservation
description of
easements.
it, yeah.
The conservation easements to do the work, but then they won't stay.
They won't stay. So
It's access to the
Time.
property so we can do the remediation on the
temporary
stream and all
thing.
that.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with it.
But we just don't know if we're
time-
supposed to start up again, if we're supposed to continue just leaving
Yeah.
everything sit. I mean, it's in the board's
I
hand.
don't know who, I mean, if you want to start the clock again, then that's what I see as the next step is what we had to get.
Because eventually we have to do something. I mean, it's not optional.
They're
like-
not gonna hold off, but, you know. they're
And it
not
just
gonna
keeps
keep-
costing us more money, because before it was 1.6 million, so now we just gained.
Between 1.6 and 1.8 now, the construction price index is around 5 and 6% each year because construction
It's
is
gonna
hot right
cost us
now.
more,
So I
and
can't imagine it's
there's
cheaper.
less grant money now. We really,
Yeah, basically, if you get a grant, it's gonna cover the inflation over the years that
Yeah.
we've waited.
so after looking at all this list here, looks like our pressing issues is the airports, the courthouse parking lot, the Riddle Block.
So
Are we
I
going to get
came in
design
on
on
the tail
that?
end of the airport. The airport is in whose name, the property?
Airport board right now,
The airport board, so they carry the insurance, the
That's
risk
correct.
liability on this, correct?
correct. Well, right
Okay,
now,
so
they-
I'm gonna ask
Michelle,
Michelle to give me, to get an idea of what that's gonna cost us, even if our insurance, you know, because one of the main reasons with Hills Pond that we wanted out of the business is because our insurance was crazy because of
the liability of
the
it.
liability.
That's the
And I can
second
just see
highest
the same
risk
kind of
level of
thing
a
maybe
dam.
with the airport.
for the lowest use rating.
So when you say crazy, insurance has cost us 100,000 a year,
For which,
the dam.
oh, I'll find out for you. I don't
So-
know at the top of my head, but but that's the other part of the coin is our insurance agent's telling us, you guys need to, you know, if you can get rid of it, you need to get rid of it and get it out of your hand, because if it floods, what is it, 532?
Yeah,
It goes down through there, you've got major issues.
There's like five levels of dam safety. Of course, like Mogador Reservoir is the top. We're the second top because of 532. So we have to have the most safety precautions on that dam, which is part of why it's so expensive. On the other side of the use ratings, it's just rated recreational, which there's absolutely no money available for recreational dams because the state doesn't want them. So we've got the worst of both worlds. We have an extremely high safety rating with an extremely low use rating
So and our insurance rating is high right
because
now
of the safety rating.
because of the safety. And so that's my question. How much would we pay insurance versus the liability versus the 1.8 million to get rid of the thing?
That was, I'll talk with you.
Well, and to fix it's 1.8. I mean, it was
Yeah,
like 1.6 to 1.8, whether you want to fix it or tear it down, the costs were almost identical
right.
But one fixes it permanently.
forever, which is what we're
And
hoping.
reduce
But Todd, wouldn't we get help with one of those?
The
If we
tear
take-
is where the grants are for the stream restoration. If you fix it, there's no money anywhere.
it's out of the general fund.
Yeah.
And it serves 14 houses, I think, along there.
Not even that many.
Not-
Not even that many
11.
with actual access.
It's
There's
not many over 10.
like 8 houses.
Was that 1 years ago that they wanted to build that big arc? I'm having a hard time which dam it is.
Go into the town that you go down
You know where Mogador Golf Course
and
You know
then
the
up
golf
in the
course?
town that
Yeah.
off 532.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, Testus bought that and they're one of
Or
our.
developing
they're
it.
one of our
And there's
properties.
14 houses around that lake.
I mean,
I
there's
think
not
that's
that
what they
many
said,
that have
11.
apps that we have to get the easement from.
Right.
We have, I think, 6 properties that we have to get the easement from.
But I mean, just so that you understand, to bring Tony up, we have exhausted every avenue we can in order to keep the dam, because as you can imagine, the residents aren't happy about it being removed, but We contacted Pesta because they were advertising waterfront properties. They don't want to do it. There was a tank farm that uses that suppression. They didn't want to chip in. We asked the residents if they would be interested in setting up a homeowners association so that they could take the dam over and repair. They have, everyone wants it, but doesn't want to.
That's that one where they had the easement, everything was growing, and those trees needed to be taken down.
Yeah,
I've been there.
it has the
Got it.
three
Yep.
gates, like,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so we have tried everything, and basically we were told the only assistance we can get is for the removal. They will not assist us in the dam repair, but the dam repair was only, what, 200,000 less than the removal?
well, depend on the option, but yeah,
Yeah,
there were several options.
and they also, with the removal though, it's not like they just remove it and drain it out and that's it. They will plant, we had looked at about vegetation,
Well, the
how they
tear down itself was
redo it.
about 350,000.
Yeah,
It's the
The
revitalizing that
project
land.
estimate is 1.6 million, so most of that money is for the restoration. of that
yeah,
street.
so it's not, because everyone had this envision that it'd be dredged down, they couldn't get out there.
It's gonna be a mud pit.
It's gonna be,
Hole
and
and
that's,
hole
not- and an example of where they removed the dam
Mhm.
is over in Cuyahoga Falls, there by the Sheridan.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
removed that and they
It's pretty.
redid it, it's very nice, and so that's why I think the Board of Commissioners then decided it's better for us to remove it, because it's a one-time expense versus we will continually be responsible for it, we've got the liability for it.
Could we do this next week too? And each one of us, Vicky, each one of
Yes.
us pick our top 4 or 5 things that we think we ought to go for to
Sure.
start this year?
I think that would be a great idea.
I'll try and type up the comments.
Yeah,
under
take up the comments and
facility
then we can all take what we've got,
Yeah.
look at it and say, all right, these are the top 5 things I'd like to do. And Vicky says the same thing, Sabrina says the same thing, and see what we have equal and then move forward rather than not.
Okay.
I just text Julie telling her I had to leave. I had another Zoom meeting at noon, so.
Now, I had one. Okay, well, I think that's it. Vicki, do you have anything else? Is that
No.
okay for you?
Apparently so.
But she's late.
I'm
so-
free on Wednesday, Tuesday mornings nowadays.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, let's do the 9 o'clock. I like to do it early.
7:45.
No, but-
I've been doing that for 30 years.
No adjustments.
Do we need a motion to?
Yeah, we'll make a motion to adjourn. Go
Okay, all
ahead.
right. Thank you, ladies.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Todd.
Tony
I'd
made
make a
the
motion to adjourn for the day.
And I will second. Roll call.
Okay, Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Yes.
Vicky's out.